Hey everyone, welcome to our Better Call Saul Season 6 Part 1 discussion. My name is SDS Man. I am the host of this discussion, and I am joined by Bob and Connor in this discussion to talk about Better Call Saul. We have grouped up together and did a discussion on Breaking Bad, which was pretty popular, at least for me, and we also did a Better Call Saul Seasons 1 through 5 discussion. This discussion entirely focuses on the first half of Season 6. We do reference a lot of our talking points in the other two discussions, especially the Better Call Saul discussion, so I would recommend listening to those first, but if you jump into this, it's fine too. You could always watch those after if you like this one. We talk about a lot of different topics over a pretty long span of time, and it is filled with spoilers for Breaking Bad and everything we know so far about Better Call Saul. We will be doing a discussion in the near future once Better Call Saul wraps up. We will have a discussion dedicated to the second half of Season 6, which we will sort of in that discussion wrap up everything that happens in the season, give our thoughts on it, and also sort of give our overall thoughts on the whole show now that it's complete. But for this discussion, we're entirely focusing on the first 7 episodes of Season 6. If you like this discussion, make sure to check out the other ones, make sure to check out my Twitch channel, and make sure to check out our guests. Both of their links are in the description down below. And without further ado, let's get to Better Call Saul Season 6 Part 1. All right, well, we are back once again, the crew, to talk about Better Call Saul. Are we a crew? This is like the third time, so I guess I think it's a crew.
Yeah, the BCS crew.
Yes. We have Season 6 Part 1 ready to go. This is going to be fun because we've obviously did the Breaking Bad discussion, which covered like, what, how many episodes? 50 something? 63. Yeah, I knew you knew that. I knew you had me back.
It might be 62. Let me check.
Yeah, something like that.
62.
62.
This Better Call Saul in total is going to be 63.
Yeah, and then we did the other video of seasons 1 through 5 of Better Call Saul, which would have been 50 episodes?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. See, that one's easy. But now we're here to talk about 7, right? 7 episodes?
Yes.
Is that how many there are? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember numbers and stuff. But 7 episodes to talk about, and that seems like a much more limited scope, which it is, but I'm like kind of excited because like I find it much harder to like talk about like a whole show in such a small like span of time. But I feel like 7 episodes, like, there's a lot here. There's so much here. Yeah, like the more I'm looking at my notes, and I actually think I have more notes than I did for the last 2 discussions. So maybe, all right, maybe I shouldn't speak. Yeah, maybe I spoke a little too soon on that one. But at least we can just like go more in depth about like more stuff. Generally speaking, I feel like in this discussion. But all right, I kind of just jumped in without introducing. I'm SDS Man. I probably mentioned this in the intro, but I'll just say I'm SDS Man, and I'm here with Bob.
Hello.
And Connor.
I go by Glasses Freak online.
Glasses Freak, Connor. Glasses Connor Freak. Well, that doesn't work. Move on. If a joke doesn't land, you just move on. All right.
Got it.
So what's up? I don't know. Before we get into Better Call Saul, what do you guys? How do you guys watch this season? That's what I want to ask first. I know. Well, Bob and I should ask
yes,
Connor. Connor, how do you watch the season? And then we'll explain how we watch it.
I this time, let's say I got it through AMC Plus through Amazon.
Okay.
Because I wanted to watch it as soon as possible, and I was worried if I just bought the season on Amazon, it wouldn't be available to the next day.
Nice. Bob and I had a ritual.
Yes.
Monday. Every Monday, I would usually just. Did we stream almost every Monday? I think we did.
We streamed most of them. Yeah.
Most Mondays we just happened to be live streaming. But if not, Bob would come over and we'd watch it on fucking cable, which was
literally
with commercials.
Yes.
I have not seen commercials in a TV show for
yeah, it definitely I feel like the commercials, like going in, I was like, oh no, I've never watched like a show with commercials in so long. Like it's gonna be kind of frustrating. But like, I think it actually, especially if I was alone, I think I would have been frustrated. But with Bob, it actually was not terrible. I think because like
Yeah,
during
it
the
gave us a second
commercials,
to kind
we
of
could
breathe and like kind of like
talk about
stuff
what just happened. Like we would
without
mute the
talking over
commercials
the
and then
show.
just like be like, all right.
Right.
What? What's gonna like? We would just like speculate things, like because it would show like the cold open and then the commercial, and then most of the cold opens were like
There's a commercial in between the cold open and the rest of the show. Oh wow!
like the intro.
It's usually shorter than the rest of the commercials, but it is still
Yeah, but like we'll be there like trying to decipher the fucking
right.
cold open with like no, because it's so fucking vague. We're like he's making something. I don't. Is that German? So must German.
Some of them have
like,
been very vague this time.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll talk about a few of them in depth for sure.
Let me get more specifically then. I watched it with my father and my brother out on a projected onto 170 inches diagonally, like projector.
Oh my god.
Which is nice on one hand. On the other hand, well, AMC Plus through Amazon. So as soon as 6 o'clock my time, it went live. I could watch the full episode. I could pause, no commercials. So technically, I could have skipped to the end and then spoiled people who are watching live, but I did not do that.
Good boy.
Mostly, I just wanted the feature to be able to pause, which was nice.
Yeah. It is nice.
But so that was, that's how I did it.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Yeah. It was interesting for me because this is my first time watching either Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul like live. And it was weird. It was like very weird because like I'd finish an episode and I'd be like, I mean, I took my time when I watched a show. Like I binged it, but like I would only watch like 1 or 2 episodes a day usually. Like I wouldn't really go too crazy, but I was kind of like, oh fuck, I gotta wait 7 days now. Like, oh man, like I kind of wish like this whole season was just out and I could just watch it like on my own pace. But like I'm also kind of like, all right, well I'm with everybody out. Like I was definitely part of that discourse online, and I almost even felt ahead of it. Like I'm like, oh, I just saw it like before, like as everyone else did. Like there's no conversations about it. Like raw thoughts, like just like saying shit, and then you kind of hear a bunch of different voices as the week goes on. You're like, all right, we're all right. And then in the next episode, I felt like by the time the next episode came, like there was a consensus on thoughts and theories on the last episode, and I was like, oh shit, like I'm kind of like with everyone now, and we're all on the same like the page. It's really cool. It was really cool, but I fucking hate waiting. I'm very impatient. So at the same time,
well, no, this is the worst wait right now. Like each week was like, all right, cool, it's fine, and then it's Monday, great, and then it moved pretty quick. But like now that we have to wait,
weeks.
Yeah, so we 666.
So
Bob and I
we noticed,
deciphered it. Bob and I deciphered it.
Yes, the first half of the season came out in 6 weeks because the first 2 episodes came out the same day. So it was six weeks, and then we have 6 weeks off, and then we will have another 6 weeks of episodes after this.
All right, that means Kim becomes Satan. It's confirmed.
Yes.
We've just the theory is here live for everyone to hear. All right, I guess we'll just. This is also weird too because the season's not finished, so it's like we're going to be talking about plot lines, and it's like. We're simultaneously going to be recapping, but also theorizing, like because like it's like just how even the show's structured too. Like I mean, it's linear, but there's so many jumps in time and like hidden details and callbacks that come back and so much foreshadowing that like there's so much stuff that like we don't know what a lot of stuff is complete. Are we going to see this character again? Is this going to come back? Is this not? How so? So it's going to be sort of weird to do that. I guess that kind of was the case with the first Better Call Saul discussion, but it was a little more concrete because it wasn't in the middle of like a plot. Like I don't know. This was like the But what are your overall impressions of the season so far? Like the first 7 episodes as a bunch. What did like meet your expectations? Would you say like you're blown away? You I don't know. I'm just kind of curious what you guys think.
I really like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I also very much enjoyed it.
Okay.
It's doing exactly what I wanted to in like terms of keeping me like riveted basically. It's just it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do.
This is the show that I love. I mean, it's being itself. It's not what I was worried going into the season is that it would like really have to ramp up the pace
Right.
And what I love about this show is kind of just stewing in the moment. Like,
Right.
I love the pacing in this show.
It didn't
just from season 1 all the way up.
It didn't sacrifice the slow burn.
No,
like,
it didn't.
we were almost like afraid it was gonna like, yeah, I know what you mean, like turn the heat up and just fucking like ramp it up to the end. But
it kind of did like the first few episodes, but then it really slowed
and then
down.
It, then it slowed down, yeah.
Which I liked. I think I think a lot of people are impatient. Like I'm not like saying this is like everyone's impatient, but I think there's like a lot of like impatient viewers in a lot of shows.
I think it was a fantastic idea that they spread it to 13 episodes this season.
Absolutely.
Like if it was 10 episodes, would not have been enough.
Yep.
So. Right, but I think that they extended it to 13 seasons, but I think they did that so they could do this slow burn. That the first, well, not really the first. Like I guess like the middle part of the season was
because the last like
it was
the last 4 episodes have been kind of slower.
Like the middle, like I feel like the first 3 were pretty quick. Like
yeah,
they were pretty.
First they were pretty quick, and then 4, 5, 6, 7 slowed down.
4, 5, 6. I've seen.
Well, yeah, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 was crazy. That was
We'll
get to that.
Well, that was really the culmination of everything.
Right.
So like...
Which is why I think like, and I guess we'll hop into. I just have a note here saying thoughts on the split season, and I don't mean like from like a corporate perspective. To get nominated for 2 different awards, but
that's not the only reason.
You don't think so?
No, I've followed a lot of the writers' Twitter. I've conversed with some of them, and a lot of it has to do with Bob Odenkirk's heart attack. That really set them back.
Oh, really?
And I've been listening to, they have an insider podcast that comes out every week, episodes. If they were to have no break and still started at like April 18th, whenever it started, they would not be done with the episodes in time. They're really like booking it post-production wise to get these episodes.
Okay.
So that's
okay.
Probably the main reason.
Another
reason is people have pointed out the Emmys. I mean, there's no confirmation of that, but that's I think that's a pretty safe assumption.
Yeah, that was my thought. At least from AMC's perspective, that was why they did it.
But in terms of the split, they wrote and filmed the season thinking it was just going to air as one.
Yes, so which is fascinating.
That's where the split happened to land.
Well, it works really well.
It works incredibly well with what just happened.
It almost feels like it was like designed. Like it's so impressive that they could do that, because like it really does feel like, as we'll talk about, like it really feels like this season, at least in terms of one plot line, is like a downfall or a spiral, like a downward spiral. And this sort of feels like a moment where like the downward spiral is like, there's no return. Like, it's like, it's like, there's no possible way with what the last episode we'll talk about. I swear we'll get to it in just a little bit, but there's no possible way that the show is the same after that last episode, like ever again.
No.
Like in any way, like it's almost going to be weird to see if what it resembles. But fuck. All right.
The turning point of the season. That's what I've heard it described as.
Yeah.
This is what propels the rest of the season, is what I'm guessing, is this. The last thing that's happened.
Yeah, and
we have finally taken the turn toward the end of the season.
Yeah, and we'll get to a lot of stuff. We're just gonna get into it because we have a lot of stuff to get to. So how I have this structured is we're kind of gonna go. I know before we kind of went with like characters, but we're actually gonna really focus on plot lines. This time around, I have like 4 here, and I know there's possibly more, and I know plot lines sort of intersect a lot of the time. So like some of these will kind of cross over and we'll kind of make it work. But I organize them by like how much meat there is to the plot line. Like I saved like, I feel like the plot line we have the most discussion about last. So I kind of went in reverse order than I usually do, but we talk about like, like the main character and the side characters. We're kind of going to go in the opposite direction. So we're going to start with the plot line, the only plot line that really wrapped up and had a conclusive ending, which is Nacho's plot line, which I know kind of intersects with Gus's and Mike's, but we'll kind of talk about theirs separately. I think really actually we can include them in here up to episode 3. I think like they kind of have their own separate plot line going on after episode 3, a little bit in episode 2 and 1, like they have their own scenes together, but we can like obviously mention them when we're talking about Nacho because it's integral to, talk about like Mike's character and Gus's character and so on and so forth. But it was fascinating. Nacho, I mean, was probably one of the bigger cliffhangers that Better Call Saul left on after a season. I mean, probably. I'm trying to think of the other ones, but it feels like the biggest one where it was like, what's going to happen to Nacho? Where is he going to go? And I was really expecting kind of the series of events that happened to happen just over a longer period of time. Like, I was kind of surprised that they nailed it in 3 episodes, but I think they couldn't have done it better. I seriously think it was so well done how they handled Nacho's plotline. Do you guys agree with that?
I think it is morbidly. I mean, this show isn't the most realistic, but I remember thinking, "There's no way Nacho, like where we left him off season 5, is going to last that long." And unfortunately, I was right.
Right.
In terms of, you'd expect with a TV show for each of the characters' plot lines to be and their character arcs to stretch out from the first episode to around the last. And I think there's several reasons why this works and why it happened. One meta reason, and this is not the main reason that's been said, is because they wanted to get Mark Margolis, the guy who plays Hector Salamanca, his scenes kind of out of the way for the most part, because this was filmed during the pandemic and COVID and everything, and he's one of the eldest cast members. This is a cast with a lot of old people, so that is one of the reasons. But also mainly, not just not gonna last that long. I mean, he's in Salamanca territory, and Gus is going after him. Like he's being
basically every possible cartel person who could be after him is after him.
So Nacho made a very strategic move to really like put his priorities straight. Like, what do I really want, and how can I affect this to get that?
Yeah, and his number one drive was always just safety for his father. Basically, it was always the only thing.
I think it retroactively puts a lot of his story in perspective.
Yeah, it very much does. Especially like the first 2 episodes, like he's not even really fighting for his own survival. I mean, maybe at first, but like as it goes on, in which like he's just doing more drastic thing after drastic thing after drastic thing, and just like suffering, sort of in this like hell. I think they play it smart by not like immediately showing the cards and be like, he's doing this for his father. Like it's kind of obvious in a way, but they really save it towards the end of his plotline to really reveal that and put everything he's been fighting for in perspective. And his sort of plan and how he's lining things up. I was so like devastated during that safe scene that opened episode 2, because it was at that point where I'm like, all right, like not even Mike is powerless to save Nacho at this point. Like I was like, it's done. But I really enjoyed how they sort of played into Mike's character too in this, because Mike was fighting for Nacho last season as well, if I'm not mistaken, near the end. So like, obviously those two had a relationship, and I was very interesting to sort of see. I was very interested, I guess. I don't know if it has happened yet. I'm not sure. It's hard to say, but I'm very interesting, both past and future tense, to see how this affects Mike. Because like, I mean, I think we kind of saw it, but very subtly.
I don't think we're done with the effect of Nacho. I think we're going to see him brought up at least a few times, or things around him. Right.
And we'll mention that on another plot later on, that I think he could come back, could be involved in somewhat. But I don't know. I guess we should just get to the death scene. Should we just get to the death scene? Or are there other Nacho stuff we want to talk about? Because I honestly feel like...
Well, there is one other important scene that happens before the death scene, which is his phone call with his father. Like, that was like the big... God. Like, where you could clearly see where everything was headed, and you're just like, "Oh no, Nacho!" Yeah, and it was a huge moment, and Michael Mando did a phenomenal job of everything along the way.
Oh my God, he fucking brought his you could. I knew from his acting in that scene. I'm like, all right, this is his last episode. I'm like, oh my God, but I just...
If he does not get at least a nomination for an Emmy, it would be a travesty.
Yeah,
it's Better Call Saul. No one's going to get Emmys, but
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think maybe Bob Odenkirk's heart attack's going to affect things, and it's the last season. I mean, as grim as that is, that
Yeah.
happens when
Yes.
some actor has a medical thing and barely survives, which is true. He barely survived. His heart didn't beat for 13 minutes.
Yeah,
but
that's wild.
anyway, I mean, ultimately, it's nice, but yeah, as long as I can enjoy the show, I don't really care if it gets award stuff.
Right. I just personally believe like Nacho's whole character, his whole like, I don't know, like I think interesting about him, like is reflected in his death scene. Like I think his death scene does such an excellent job, like highlighting his character, his arc, and like you know, I don't know, like I really love how they handled his death, because Nacho is a character that sort of, you know, I mean, the episode's called A Rock and Hard Place, which has like all episode titles, a couple meanings in the episode, but like that really just describes Nacho's like whole storyline throughout the whole show. Like just constantly, being caught between, well, you know, if I go to the police, you know, that won't help me out. I'm going to be a rat. And you know, that will
his
obviously,
father's in danger if he goes to the police.
Exactly. Everything's in danger if he goes to the police, but if he also doesn't go to the police, well, then he's also in danger. So, that's kind of been the whole show and his whole conflict. So it's kind of like in a weird way relieving, or at least somewhat not.
Yeah.
Relieving is almost a bad word, but I don't know what other word to use. It's oddly comforting to see that Nacho sort of in his death, for at least some moments, sort of escapes that and genuinely has control in his death, which
he has not had in a long time.
Yeah, doesn't really have throughout the whole series.
Yeah, ever since season 2, he's been tired of this. It's not really explained how he got into this. It was probably they mentioned that he's childhood friends with Domingo or Crazy 8. So it's presumably one of those things. And he ever since season 2, he's wanted Tuco to be eliminated, then Hector, then Gus and Lalo. He has not made a choice. He has been, you know, he has this dream of like running away with his father to Canada, just away from all this. And that, unfortunately, the harsh reality is that just can't happen. You're in the game, right? It's almost impossible to get out. And so he finally, like, I guess, admits to himself, or he finally gives up in a way, but he gives up in a way in which he can still control things. Because if he keeps running away, he knows that he gets less control and the consequences become harsher and harsher. But if he can put a stop to it, I think it was very smart on his end. And plus, he knows Mike's the guy who won't pull the trigger,
right,
based on his previous reactions. So that's why he needed Mike's guarantee that his father would be safe, because he knows Gus doesn't care at all.
And I like how, you know, that fight for his father, for Nacho, also leaks into, like, as we'll talk about a little bit later, like Gus's and Mike's plotline, in which like Gus is like sort of forced to compromise with Mike, because like at first he's pretty steadfast of you know, not worrying about Nacho, being like, well, you know, he'll die and oh well. But like it actually turns out that, like, you know, keeping him alive for this period of time and dealing with it differently is beneficial towards Gus as well. So I like how that sort of ties in. But yeah, I absolutely love how, like, they just give him his moment, and even like he doesn't go with the plan that Gus, you know, lies out. Like he still achieves the same goal, but he does it in a way where, like, he almost, like, for a split second, like when he's looking at Gus, or when like he has the line like him, and like a little pause. It's like that almost like intentional, like theatrical, like pausing and like suspenseful nature to like have in a brief little moment have Gus right in his hand. It's like so, but it's so satisfying.
Yeah, Gus's face, it freaks him out so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the only thing he can do to at least get back at Gus a little bit, because otherwise everything's going
right
the way Gus wants.
Right, and you know, he obviously keeps the glass and does this whole charade, and just for that brief moment, you know, has everything in that control, and that's just like, it's just it's so satisfying. It's so satisfying that they close his death like that, because that just does. It's like it just closing his arc. Like it just works so fucking well.
Yes.
I love
Gus's
it.
sloppiness in a way allowed Nacho to do that, because that was the same piece of glass that obviously Gus broke off the
Yeah,
table.
we'll definitely talk about that scene.
Yeah, which I didn't realize. But there was quite a number of things in these like first couple episodes or first three
Yeah,
episodes that I didn't realize at first, like what the plan was with Nacho in the hotel and stuff. I mean, I figured it out.
Yes,
obviously.
yes, that they left that very ambiguous.
They did. I
Because
had to think
was
about
like,
it a bit.
I was like, wait, so are they on Nacho's side? Well, they gave him a gun, so like that must mean that they want him to
They
survive.
gave him a gun and told him to shoot anyone who came through the door, which they knew the Salamancas didn't want to shoot him. But if he's shooting at them, they're going to kill him. So that was the whole,
Yeah. It was like kind of fascinating to see.
Gus wanted it in this very particular way, which is pretty sloppy, because it's like, well, things don't go exactly to plan like that.
Yeah, it's also kind of like Gus kind of figured that Hector would be accusatory to him and be like, I know it's the chicken man that tried to have Lalo killed or killed Lalo. Based on everybody, but basically Hector knows. But like he needed to use this in a way to get kind of the suspicion off him, and it took Nacho fully taking control of the situation to get the suspicion off him. Like if Nacho didn't fully go out with what he did there, like I feel like Gus's plan wouldn't have worked as well if Nacho had done what he had been told. But the way Nacho went through with it worked out real well. So.
Yeah, one of my favorite symbolic moments. I mean, it's pretty on the nose, but I like what the oil tank scene where Nacho has to like submerge himself in like that thick, nasty oil to survive, which is kind of like symbolic of what he's been doing his whole life, or like for like almost the last time, like like getting that dirt on him, like getting that like cartel drug, like it's almost, I don't know, like I feel like it's just like the last straw for him. It's like I don't know if does that symbolism make sense? Am I explaining it properly? I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah,
but
no, that makes a lot of sense.
That's how I read that.
I've heard a lot of people and I'm pretty sure this is intentional. There's some Jesus imagery relating to Nacho in that last episode.
Mm-hmm.
There's like the Catholic halo. He's sitting underneath like a tire rim.
Mm-hmm.
Above him, he wears a white shirt at the end. He submerges himself, kind of like a baptism, that sort of thing. And you can read into that.
I mean, a sacrifice.
Much or little as you want.
He basically is sacrificing himself for his father. Yeah.
But I know the folks on this show like really pay attention to like wardrobe and color and
of course
shot composition. I love the shot when he leaves the money because you immediately know, oh well, yeah, this is it for Nacho. Because otherwise you'd keep that money if he had some other reason. It's like, no, he's given up his worldly possessions. He's done.
Yeah. And I feel like the episode also like paced itself in a way, or like set it up where it was like you knew like the plan wasn't like gonna go down exactly how Gus laid it out. Like I don't know, they have a lot of like interesting like foreshadowing or like specific lines that like gave you an impression of like oh hey Mike, can you like go high just in case something goes wrong? Like kind of setting up like oh shit, like maybe like just give you a little bit of false hope, but you still kind of know like all right, like he's gonna die, but something's not gonna go as we plan. And obviously when you start seeing with the glass, then your wheels start turning. But yeah, I loved how they handled this plot line. I loved that they didn't drag it on too much. I feel like it just had just enough. Especially, I think it was really smart to like pretty much have the third episode almost solely focus on the Nacho plot line. Like there was some stuff going on with Jimmy and Kim, but it was like pretty like low key compared to like the other previous two episodes. It really was like almost a Nacho centric episode. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it definitely deserved the focus that it got. 100%.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts on the Nacho plotline? I'm sure we'll bring it up when we get to like other stuff.
Just the Michael Mando is such a good actor.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. One of my favorite moments. I love the detail of Hector. It's so pathetic of Hector shooting Nacho.
Yeah.
It's the only thing he can do in retaliation because Nacho's gone.
Yeah.
So it's like it comes across so pathetic. It's this is Hector Salamanca. He used to have so much like he's so angry at Nacho, but Nacho, killed himself, so there's no way to like do anything to him.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I'm gonna shoot your corpse from this wheelchair.
The
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, that moment, that release that Nacho gives, where he is like, "I put you in that chair" to to Hector, like it's like so like I don't know what the word is, like
Cathartic.
Yes, cathartic. Yes, that's 100%
I genuinely
the
didn't
right
think
word.
that was going to come up again.
Yeah, it
I
kind
didn't
of felt
think
like
about
the
it until he
moment
mentioned it.
where in Breaking Bad, where Walt revealed to Jesse that he killed Jane. Like it was like that, like
I watched Jane die. Yeah.
yeah, but that felt a little sinister and like gross. Like I was like, oh god, like stop. But this almost felt like in a weird, like cathartic way, kind of like, yeah, all right, this feels good.
Because one's towards Jesse, one's towards Hector.
Exactly. But yeah, and it just feels like, all right,
Yeah.
like okay, like
Exactly what I thought.
yeah. I love that, and his line delivery in that just monologue is just, oh my god, like it's just so precise.
Yeah.
It's so well done.
He's finally able to like reveal his like true emotions towards the Salamancas and everyone.
Even though he's lying, even though he's still in his moment of that lying, he's still like getting out all the truths that he needs to get out while making this fabrication to save his father. It's so
his emotions are real.
Yeah.
And I think most of what he says is real, except for why he betrayed Lalo.
Right, which is what's so creative, because that wasn't really part of the plan. But he made it part of the plan. I just love that. I just love that so much.
He probably made it more convincing, really.
Yeah.
Because his hatred towards everyone, why he would accept the money to help with the assassination.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move on to the next plot line. This is the second one. We kind of talked about it a little bit, but it's Gus and Mike. This is kind of a little hard to talk about. This plot line structured a little interestingly. I feel like it's like focused a lot in the beginning, and then it kind of fades as it goes on. I mean, Gus, I believe in the last 2 episodes, he only has one scene, right? I think the scene where he's like doing the promotional material, and the Mike comes in the last episode, and it's like, oh, Hector left his voicemail and whatever. I'm pretty, because I don't think he's in the episode before that.
He's not on 6 at all.
Yeah,
which was directed by the guy.
He directed it. Yes,
right. Yeah. Jean Carlo Esposito. Yeah.
And then the only scene he's in after that is when he's giving the check to the girls basketball team.
So it's fascinating. It feels like Gus and Mike have a lot going on in the beginning, but then they kind of like, they sort of like are just, I feel like, setting things up for the second half of the season. With visiting
they have no
the
word from
laundromat,
Nacho, so they're just hanging
and hiding the gun. But oh my fucking god, I absolutely love the direction they take Gus in the season so far. I absolutely love it. I wasn't really a huge, I think Gus, he's been interesting in Better Call Saul, but I never feel like they took his character in a direction that was interesting, or at least was unique. He didn't seeing Jimmy compared to Saul, or seeing how Mike compared to how he acts in Breaking Bad. There's a contrast there. It doesn't really feel like that in Gus's first couple seasons, but this is the first time we see Gus just absolutely noided. He is just so paranoid, but then it also simultaneously shines a light on Breaking Bad, and it's okay, well, he's probably all this way during Breaking Bad as well. We just don't really see it. And it's actually, it's so interesting, seeing how he lives in this house, and he has this tunnel and all this stuff. It actually does explain how there's a scene in Breaking Bad where Walt is walking up to Gus's house, thinking of assassinating him, and he gets a call from Mike, who's go home, Walter.
Tyrus, but yeah.
Oh, is it Tyrus? I thought it was.
It is Tyrus, yeah.
Oh, it's Tyrus. Okay, for some reason that was Mike. But it's because they were watching him from the house, because they're right there. It's so
yeah, it completely retcons every time, because if you think back, every time we've seen in that house through Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, he's been with Walt in that house.
Yeah.
And
Jesse.
He says the kids don't like dinner or whatever to Walt, and there's kids toys. It's so fun. That's so set up because he's meeting specifically with Walt.
Yeah.
And then with Jesse,
I can just imagine Mike buying a bunch of plushes and throw them on the ground.
It's so laughable now to think Walt going to that house. Bro, Gus isn't even there. And then also Jesse, which Jesse was never gonna put poison in that stew, because it's all it's all fake. The whole house thing is fake. really.
Yes.
And then with the doctor who he hires for
Right.
Hector Salamanca. And so in all those scenarios, it's not him by himself in the house; it's with someone else. Like, so
Yeah.
it's kind of a part of the story that he
It's
likes
like
to
a
portray himself
part of
as.
his facade. Yeah. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
I really like how they handled just his paranoia though. Like we mentioned the scene where he breaks the glass. Like he's like, it's just so many moments where you see Gus unhinged and it's just like we or when he's at like he's at Los Pollos and he's like he has that moment where like he's talking to a customer and he like spaces out of like paranoia that like Lalo might come. Like it's just so fascinating. I love it. I
Right,
don't
and
know.
it's good to see him like try to collect himself afterward too. Like when he broke the glass, he like stopped, he breathed for a second, and went and picked everything up
Yeah.
and cleaned it up and tried to get back into his normal stature as best he could.
Yeah, this Gus in Better Call Saul, I will say, like, the main difference for me between Gus in Better Call Saul and Gus in Breaking Bad is that Gus in Better Call Saul is not quite. He makes more mistakes. He's a little bit sloppier. He's still. It's interesting. You bring up the when he's in the restaurant and he's listening to customers' order. I didn't catch this because this is a small detail. But what snapped him out of it, I think, what made him think about where Lalo could be, is that the customer orders like spicy curly fries or something like that, which is the
Yes.
flavor they were introducing when he's talking to the German guy
Mm-hmm.
in the previous season, which I never would have caught if it wasn't pointed out to me.
Yeah, I
But
never would have thought about that either. But as soon as you said that, yeah.
and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that yeah, the show definitely likes to trust its audience to remember little details, even like 2 years after
Yeah.
the previous season came out.
Right. No, for sure. 100%. What about Mike? Did Mike really have any like? I mean, he had obviously he had a few like standout moments. Some with Nacho. He obviously had that conversation with Kim. Um, and he had that moment with when he's watching, I guess, his daughter, like looking up the telescope. But like, I don't know.
Mhm.
Is there like, but I guess I think Mike's most interesting stuff was in the beginning when he's like kind of like starting beef with Gus a bit, or at least he's like standing his ground against Gus.
Yeah.
And like it sort of like sets up a little of a conflict between him and Tyrus, which we know really doesn't go anywhere. But they sort of tease that as well later in the season. So like I don't know, Mike doesn't really his arc. I feel like isn't really.
Yeah. I feel like we
Isn't
don't have very
started
far
yet.
to go to get him to the point he was when he was introduced in Breaking Bad.
Yeah, that, and I think that his storyline is really going to be intertwined with Lalo going forward.
There's a few really interesting things to me. The fact that he kind of gave up defending Nacho, I think, at a certain point, like because he went along with the plan. He knew what was in that envelope he put in the safe.
Mhm.
And I think his justification for that, when Nacho like asks him for help the previous season, he says, "I don't know what to tell you, right? You got in with both eyes open." I think he doesn't have nearly as much sympathy for people who have willingly or who are in the game in general. But it's when Nacho mentions his father, he's always had a problem with people not in the game being involved with people in the game, right?
Plus, of course, that
So-
also reignites his relationship with his Mike's son, and there's definitely like some of that going on too.
That's the line though. It's only when they mention which it's Gus said that in Spanish, Nacho's father, bring him here. And I presumably so Mike didn't quite understand, but Mike still understood it because you say Papa
Right.
Varga, like who, what? Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think he knows it. It'd be surprising if he didn't know at least some Spanish working for Gus.
Right. Yeah, I think he'd be pretty bad at his job if that was the case.
Yeah, but so that's always been the line for him. I think he's just, in some respects, I think he's kind of given up some of his kind of idealized, the way he likes to view himself in terms of like criminal world and stuff. But he didn't want to just be Gus's button man.
Yeah.
But he's further and further. He's kind of going along with worse and worse stuff when it comes to Gus.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I think he just gets deeper and deeper. There's really no other choice but to, do what he needs to do to protect his family and just sort of maintain this position to, get the money for his family, I guess.
It was so uncanny, like the fact that he's in the house right next to them, but he says he's somewhere completely different.
Right.
It's so I think there's multiple ways to look at that. Ignoring the fact that it's the shortest star looking at thing in the world. Like they were out there for 2 seconds before coming back in.
That's true.
It was really weird. But besides that,
I
think it's so strange because he obviously loves them a lot, but then also it's like it feels weird, right? Because he's lying to them. He's just out there. He's right next to them, but he says he's somewhere completely different. And yeah, I liked the little detail of like, well, we're trying to protect Gus, right? Why do you have people on this random street? Which Tyrus, I think, brings up a good point. It's like they're really stretched thin. They're so looking for Lalo. They have no idea what's going on. Right. And they're like, have people in an abandoned house across from a street that's very unlikely Lalo's going to go to. But I mean, that's Mike's prerogative. It always has been.
No, for sure. Yeah, I think. Do you have anything to say about Bob? Bob? Before I just want to touch on one thing with Mike. I don't know if you have anything.
No, go ahead.
All right. So I was gonna say, I think the most interesting scene with Mike for me is that he has with Kim. I just really enjoy that scene. It's obviously just enjoyable to see two characters interact that haven't yet had a scene together on the show. Yeah. But also, like, I just enjoy, like, you kind of get like an idea of how like Mike views Kim. Obviously, he was listening in the conversation she had with Lalo at the end of season 5. But like just sort of seeing how observant she is, how she's like sort of like almost like interrogating or getting behind, seeing who's behind like the people following her. Like Mike almost like has his recognition of like, all right, like, yeah, he even says like you're made of more sterner stuff than Jimmy. Which is pretty obvious, but like it's a moment of a scene between them that kind of spell out what is kind of something we could just observe from watching the show so far. But I really enjoyed that scene a lot.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a couple things in that scene. I get the impression that he was kind of implying maybe don't tell Jimmy this because because Mike knows Jimmy way more than he knows Kim.
Yes.
And I think that he knows that he's so scared of Lalo. He was about to break and crack and tell Lalo everything right before Kim.
Yes.
In last time we saw Lalo in the apartment with them.
Yes.
And also I totally forgot about this, but this reminded me. I love the line because I've always said this, like Kim's probably seen Mike before at the parking lot, and they addressed that.
Yes.
At the parking attendant. And she said that, like, you're the parking attendant. And he takes a moment and he says,
not anymore.
I was. He says I was. Which is kind of it reflects back on his journey too. It's like, yeah, that's not me anymore.
That's not like, exactly. Yeah. No, I love
that
line.
It almost has a tinge of sadness to it too.
Yeah. Oh, it's very sad. Yeah.
I really appreciate the little tiny details like that.
Like, yeah, that's always excellent. But I don't know. I feel like Mike there's not really much to talk about with Mike this season so far. Like he just had his moments here and there. It felt like when I don't know why. It felt like when he first appeared in episode 1, like the way like they introduced him was like it felt like oddly fan servicey. Like they were trying to be like, oh, it's Mike. I don't know.
You know about it's back of his head and then turns around. And
comes in. It was a weird. I was like, wait, what? Oh, it's Mike. Oh, okay. Like,
gotta love Jonathan Banks.
That was a little like
ceremonious. Only thing that felt weird to me in that shot was the outside was CGI. But besides that,
yeah, there were few of those moments for me. But yeah.
Oh yeah, there's been some CGI stuff. It hasn't taken me out of it too much, but
no, I've definitely noticed that. I notice it a lot more.
My eyes are sensitive to that.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to another plot line. I feel like this one is even sort of shorter than the other two, but I think we could speculate a little bit more. I'm also going to say we can talk about everything about this plotline except for the final scene, because I think it kind of connects to another plotline, and I kind of want to talk about it there. And that is Lalo. Mm-hmm. So Lalo, kind of like Gus, disappears for a little bit, or a few episodes. He is in the first episode, actually a lot more prominently than I'd expect him to be, which was cool. I liked how we got a couple scenes with him there. Obviously, the one where he gets the body double to shave a very specific way. I love that. That's such a great scene.
Ridiculously prepared.
It's like it's a backup plan. Yeah, it's like he has a backup plan.
I just pay this guy just in case I need a body double.
Yeah, I love that scene a lot. That was an excellent. Like, it's so tense. I was like, oh my god, I'm not ready for this. It's too. Can we just get a scene when we don't see people get hurt early in the episode?
Funnily enough, they don't show him hurt anybody.
It's true.
No.
Except for the leg thing and the 7th episode ending.
Well, of course, yeah. It kind of actually progresses.
But it always cuts away.
And later in the episode, we don't see him.
Weirdly enough.
We don't see him
We
kill.
definitely don't need to see it because
guards.
we know what Lalo is, so we know what happened.
Yeah, it's actually more intense to imagine it than see it. Like I think like that's like one of those moments where it's like we don't need to show it to you. We'll leave it to your imagination. It's more powerful. But at the end of that, he sort of like reveals to Hector, like, I have a plan. I'm gonna go find proof. And then we don't see him for a while, and we then see a little bit of him in Germany for 2 episodes, and then
3 episodes without seeing him, and then like I think it's the 5th episode we see him again.
Yeah, and then we see 2 episodes of him in Germany, and then he's back where he belongs, in the US of A, which is kind of weird. Lalo, it doesn't really explain how he travels there. I know. I don't. Maybe we don't need to know.
I don't think we need to know.
I know, but
I'd like them to address it maybe a little bit. It
would have been cool.
I don't know how they would do it.
Set it up, but I guess I'm not sure how the passage of time works in that case, but I don't know.
I think it probably would be. I think he has enough money to go ahead and just kind of get.
He probably has
through whatever he needs to get through.
Right. It's probably some lines of like he gets like smuggled on like a cargo plane or something. And
I'm gonna assume it's a plane. I don't think it's a boat. That'd take too long.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, it is really fast after we've seen him in Germany that we see him back in Albuquerque.
I was very surprised at the start of because that was the cold open for the finale or the mid-season finale was him being back in Albuquerque. I was very surprised that it started immediately there.
Yeah. So obviously there's some time manipulation. I don't think.
Yeah.
Right.
It's implied for him to get to Germany and back. And it's been about a month this season has taken place so far, so that's doable.
Okay. Yeah, and then we have the 2 scenes in Germany. Well, actually, 2 scenes. I guess 2 moments. One in which one in which he is visiting. What was her name? Oh God, I can't remember her name.
Margarita.
Yes.
Margarita. Whatever.
Margarita.
However you pronounce it.
Yeah. And
Warner's
then
wife.
is it Casper?
Yes.
How did I remember that? I can remember that name for some reason.
I didn't remember it until I looked it up.
Yeah. His scene in Germany as well, and then we'll kind of save. Well, no, we can talk about everything that happens last episode up to the Howard stuff. So I guess I just kind of want to outline what's to cover. There's not really that much. But how do you think they handle Lalo this season? It kind of feels like it's a lot of setup, more than payoff. But I enjoyed some of the scenes in Germany, especially. What do you guys think?
Yeah, there were a few little details I really liked. When he's calling Hector for the first time and he's about to cross the border in the hay truck, which is the exact same hay truck that the cousins blow up in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Same exact one.
That's wow. Yeah.
He calls and he immediately starts speaking in Spanish, and the gal says, "Oh, I'll get someone to speak Spanish." And then he says, "No, never mind," because he needs someone who doesn't understand Spanish when he's talking to Hector. Which I thought was brilliant. He did that the second time too. He called. Mm-hmm. I love little smart details like that. I spent like weeks speculating what in the world he was doing. He was going to do finding proof. At first, I thought he was going to try to go back to Nacho, and then maybe I thought he was following Jimmy and Kim, but that ended up being Mike.
Yep.
And then I was like, okay, how in the world did he find Werner's wife? But if you go back and you watch him at the Travel Wire, while he's on the phone with Werner, driving, right before Mike takes the phone from Werner, he has paperwork from the Travel Wire, and it has his wife's name and where she lives. So that's how he got that.
Oh, okay.
Which I did not think about in the moment. It's like, well, Germany's a big place, you know?
Yeah.
And then he's
that
able to
makes
track.
sense.
Yeah, it's really interesting, like how he's able to track. And then he tracks Casper,
Yep.
who was obviously the one who presumably cared the most, as established in season 5, episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Gave him this gift, and you can follow along even though they don't show a lot of the steps.
Yeah, it works. It works. I like how they leave it up to the viewer to figure that stuff out. They don't need to spell it out.
And then lastly, when he's in the sewer, figuring out the phone was tapped.
Yes. One excellent scene.
And giving false information to Hector.
Yes.
Which Hector did not know and was very mad about.
It's like another example.
Lalo's pretending to be reckless.
It's another example of like Gus kind of getting played again. Like Gus is super prepared, but like he's still sort of like he's still being outplayed here, and I like
by
being
too prepared. He tips his hand that he knows that Lalo's alive.
Yeah,
Lalo had no idea that Gus thought he was alive until that point, and unfortunately, I probably shouldn't have done this, but I saw him look at the cockroach and then leave, and I knew immediately he was going to Jimmy's I said it out loud to my brother and dad, and they would have never guessed that. The only reason I knew that is because he called him the Spanish word for cockroach in the previous season, and these things are so ingrained in my head. I was like,
he said it to Kim.
Most people wouldn't get that. So
when him and Kim were having a conversation,
when he's in the desert,
which kind of is perfect because cockroaches are very hard to kill. They're very slippery. And they always make it out alive somehow, and that's kind of what Jimmy has done with everything.
I mean, he made it out of all of the events of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad to Gene. So
like it kind of makes sense. I think it is kind of like a little slimy cockroach. It's like a pretty good. It's a good exactly good symbolism there, Lalo.
Picked up on it.
Yeah,
that was about it. I mean, there's. I really liked the conversation he had with Werner's wife.
That was excellent.
I thought he played that so well, and I love the tension when she comes back to her house and Lalo's still there.
Yep.
The first shot of that episode is them sliding sliding like a cabinet door open. To get supplies to make the mold of the measuring instrument. I don't know the words for anything.
Right.
And the very last shot of that episode is her exact same framing, shutting her window. That's the exact same shape. I love little symmetry stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I really liked how they handled that. And I'm glad they didn't they had that suspenseful scene, but they didn't have to have a result in the character's death. Like they could leave it with Lalo sparing her, which is like a pretty big moment. Right. It's like kind of like
it's kind of huge for his character. It's like normally it's not something you think that Lalo would do. Like he seems like the type to be just kind of like fully focused on his goal. Like he's like the psychotic villain basically.
It definitely benefits him to not kill her probably or draw attention.
That was the main thing for me. But I don't think it has anything to do with him feeling anything.
Yeah, I think there's that element, but I still simultaneously think like it's a, I think like he could have easily killed her and then covered it up, like if he really wanted to. Like, I know
think Gus would be tracking that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah,
or maybe at least Lalo would think that that's something Gus would.
Yeah, that's a good.
I think point. It was. I mean, he could have also killed her the night before when she didn't invite him in.
Yeah,
right, and that would have been nighttime. I think it's much better for him to sneak in, from his point of view.
Yeah.
But I do not think he cared at all, one way or the other. I think it was purely pragmatic from my perspective.
Yeah, no,
I mean different interpretations.
No, I think that definitely makes sense. But I also still think like, like he, I know Lalo's a psychopath, I understand, but like it's still sort of like, I don't know, not charming, but impressive to see him put on this act and really commit to it. And like sort of like, he has it in him to like at least fake being a very genuine person.
His accent was slightly different too.
Yeah.
He like made it sound a little bit more American.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I like how they were able to spare her life though. Like I thought that they could have set up where he killed her and then obviously I gotta cover it up and move on. But like I really like how they were able to sort of have that suspenseful moment, but not necessarily have a result in like a big climactic moment. I like that always I think it's important for shows to do that. Not to say like, you always need to have like Deus Machinas and stuff, but I like when shows set up stuff and don't always need to like have it like result in like a big moment. It makes future moments later when build up actually does happen for you to like get more invested in it, because you're like, well, they could subvert, but we don't know. So I like that they were able to do that.
It was quick, but they really did set up that he knows where Werner's wife lives. Back when he shot the guy in the travel wire, or killed the guy in the travel wire. I was listening to the commentary of season 5, episode 1, when they're returning the Germans back home, and Kai gets punched and stuff like that. And in the commentary, Peter Gould says, like, "Oh, Gus and Mike make a mistake here that's going to come to bite them later in season 6, but I won't talk about that yet." And now we know what that is, which is that the van has the logo for the laundry on it. Or the mistake could refer to that they didn't kill the Germans instead of sending it back home, because then that would be no proof. But I think if they were planning on killing them, they would have done it after the job was done anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but that was a loose end. Is that there's a bunch of Germans in Germany that know about pretty much exactly where it is.
Yeah, another part I really like about Lalo is we get to see like a little more of a personal side with him with the start of episode 7, where we see him like go through this process of going to take a shower, putting the timer on. I love a fantastic detail is how he wakes up like a second before the timer goes off. Like he put the timer on, but he didn't need the alarm to wake him up. Like he knew it was time. Yeah, like which I also have that. I set an alarm every single morning and it never wakes me up. I always wake up before it.
If I set an alarm, I'll always wake up before my alarm.
It's happened to me, yeah.
But I still like that intentional decision to show how Lalo is just like everything is like so internalized. Like he has everything just like lined up. His plan is like, I love that a lot.
He mentions the Nacho in the I rewatched season 5 before going to season 6, and he mentions the Nacho that he doesn't sleep basically at all. So I like that they're called back to it. Also, there's a couple things, and I know we're not to Kim yet. There's a couple things throughout the season that parallel Kim and Lalo, which is, first of all, the falling asleep in the car is reminiscent of when she sets an alarm for 5 minutes before, and that's very loose, of course. And then another one is looking through binoculars and chewing on something, which Kim does. And then the only reason I mentioned that is because the previous season, like season 5, episode 9, had a lot of Kim and Lalo parallels for whatever reason. I have no idea what it means, but they both looked through bullet holes. There's a shot of there's a very similar shot. The last shot of last season, him walking past the camera. Kim flashback in season 5. She walks past the camera the exact same way, and it goes out of focus the exact same way. And then season 5, episode 1, the first shot of Kim and the first shot of Lalo, they both walk towards the camera, out of focus, into focus, exact same way, and look the same direction. Those are just things I've noticed. I have no idea if it means anything.
I think it might. I actually have predictions, but we'll get to that. Maybe.
Yeah.
Anything else with Lalo? I think we covered pretty much everything. Besides the one scene.
Of course.
Cleanest sewer ever.
This motherfucker went in the sewer, touched the sewer, and then was eating food. And I'm just like, oh my god, Lalo, what the fuck? Which I guess is like, the filth is unaffected. He's unaffected by it. Like he lives in it.
Yeah. That tape to Donald audio. I'm very curious what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I imagine it doesn't reach him.
I don't think it can. No.
And I guess he has the tape. I mean, we'll kind of talk about predictions. I think Lalo. I think like I don't even think. I think like everyone can agree. Like Lalo's like the main centerpiece that's going to propel the rest of the show forward.
I don't think he's going to make it anywhere close to Breaking Bad. That's my prediction. But
like a live status, you mean?
No. Yeah, I think he's going to die well before Breaking Bad.
I also believe that.
I don't know how, but
it's gonna happen.
I have a prediction, but we'll get to it later.
Yeah. I'll get more into that when we're talking about stuff. But.
We talked about 3 plot lines that were pretty pretty had their moments. You could focus on stuff. Now, this is really what the whole season was building up towards, and the main crux of it obviously involves Jimmy, Kim, and Howard, and their sort of whole plan that they put in order. And there's obviously a lot here. I feel like I have a lot to say about Jimmy, a good amount to say about Howard, and holy fuck, a shit ton of stuff to say about Kim.
Yeah.
I feel like this was Kim's like season so far. Like,
Oh yeah.
Jimmy, I'm not saying he took a back seat, but it feels like it's fascinating to see sort of Kim run the show. I also think that, and I just we'll free flow this because this is so much to talk about. We don't need to go in order. We'll talk about everything.
Yeah.
But I do like how they handle Jimmy in the season though, because it feels like Jimmy is always relying on someone's approval. Like it feels like the show starts off with him relying on Chuck's approval, and then it slowly shifts to Kim. And I really like sort of how he really in this season is like, this is like, it gets out of his hands and Kim basically takes it over.
You can see basically the whole time how apprehensive he is about this whole plan with Howard, and it's really Kim that keeps pulling him back in. And he keeps
and there's a few moments to pull out, and Jimmy at one point, and probably at other points, probably is ready to, stop it, but Kim doesn't allow it, which confused me at the end of season 5, but makes a lot of sense now.
Yeah, I remember expressing confusion in our last discussion. Like,
I
don't think we have quite enough to understand. I feel like I understand a lot more now.
Yes,
I think they really, and I thought they would be.
Did it for me?
Oh yeah, and I wasn't even thinking about the flashback, but yeah, I get that is something to get into for sure.
Oh yeah. Oh man, we have so much to say. Where do we start with this? All right. Oh man, this is the whole plan to take down Howard. The whole setup, like it really is like all right, golf course with the powder, and then all right, let's go visit our old fucking friends, the Kettlemans, which was awesome. I love that.
Yep,
sequence. And plant the seed in Cliff's head, and then get the key made. Which that was such a fantastic sequence. I love the shot with the stairs and how like it's panning down and cutting back and forth. Just small little stuff like that can make so interesting. Like with cinematography wise, like they can just always do cool stuff like that. I feel like and then also in that scene, I guess like sort of why am I blanking on names? Oh my god. Huel really asks sort of like the question, like the thesis question of the show, like why are you doing this, Jimmy?
Right.
Why are you doing this?
And Jimmy doesn't give his own answer; he gives Kim's answer.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Because
okay.
So
I know
this has been my
so
this is my bread
we'll
and butter
stop
right
here. We'll stop here. Let's talk about that. Go ahead.
I kind of want to go from episode 1 of this season.
Okay, we have time. We kind of blaze through the other plot lines. We'll take this one slow. Do we want to start
all Jimmy Kim stuff?
Yeah, we'll start with I mean there's a scene because they kind of start off where like they're picking out a suit for like a defendant. Like it doesn't really start with the plotline take on Howard. Do we want to start where like the golf course scene or the scene in the coffee shop?
I just wanted to mention real fast when they go to the courthouse and Jimmy messes up and says Lalo instead of
okay, sure. That does happen first. Okay, yes.
Yeah. There's a beautiful when Kim says you good and Jimmy says yeah, and then it smash cuts to like the elevator doors opening. He looks so out of it. He's you can still see the tan on his forehead from when he was or the tan line on his forehead from when he was in the desert, right? I think that's something important. Like that was just a few days ago. It's only been a couple days he's been out of it. I think I think part of the reason Kim is pushing this is because to make Jimmy feel better. He's out of it. He's not quite feeling quote unquote Saul Goodman or anything really.
I think it starts off like that, but I don't think it continues like that.
No. That's near the beginning.
Yeah.
I think part of the reason I think the problem is I think there's not one reason for literally anything.
No.
So it's
so multi-layered.
Yeah, Jimmy really messes up saying Lalo's name there. I love that so much. I think it makes a lot of sense. He's getting really defensive in that conversation. Yeah, exactly. And then that cuts to when they were in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I love when they're talking about when she mentions the Howard stuff, and he's like, because that was all talk from last night, right, in the hotel. It's like, well, are we actually doing that?
Yeah.
And the silence, like the 30-second to a minute silence after she says, "Oh, I thought we were doing this, are we?" And he said, I wouldn't say that. And there's just a silence. And
Yeah.
I think Jimmy thinks that it's going to affect their relationship if
Yeah.
he doesn't do it. I think obviously he was going after Howard last season. I don't think he quite even understood why. I think it was just this kind of emotional buildup in him. And I think after he screamed at Howard in the courthouse, he just kind of felt bad about it. He's like, okay, this is just kind of cringy. I don't want to really think about Howard anymore. So I think that's part of his apprehension.
Right.
Another part of his apprehension is he just hasn't seen Kim like this before.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different layers here. I mean, obviously Kim and Howard have a relationship that spans multiple seasons. Jimmy and Howard have a relationship that spans multiple seasons. And like, it's like, there's so much like Howard, I think represents a lot of different things for Kim and Jimmy, like separately. But I think like there's like this sort of like collective, not hatred, but collective grief they're trying to get out. It's yeah. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah. So I think from Kim's perspective, I think that Kim and Jimmy are doing the same things for very different reasons. There's a line later where Jimmy says, "The wicked flee where no man pursueth," and Kim says, "You think we're wicked?" And he goes, "No, no, it's just an expression."
I think you're wicked hot.
Yeah, that was. It's they view what they're doing so differently. Kim, I think, has compartmentalized it to the. I think she's really good at that. She's really good at thinking pragmatically and compartmentalizing the justification and the means. In terms of, she really wants to help people doing pro bono, and if this is the way to do it, plus it's Howard, someone who she's seen as sliding both of them in the past, plus it's just fun.
They definitely both get off on it.
Yeah, literally.
That is that is a like the where their similarities start and end on it. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So there is that factor that I think is what I mean, like by grief. Like it feels like them both getting off on it is like them like releasing something, them like sort of like getting this feeling that they're seeking from life. But you're right, for completely different reasons.
I think those are the main reasons Kim's doing that, and for Jimmy
pushing it forward.
I think. I think he is doing it because of Kim, because he likes the excitement, because it's Howard, and because for him it represents that sort of hoity-toity like upper law that are always going to view him the same way, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah, but they also still, I think, genuinely like have resentments towards Howard. In some ways,
yes, absolutely,
because they do before they initiate the plan, they do like have they literally have a picnic in front of like HHM. Like, it's kind of fucking. It's like almost twisted. It's like they're they're enjoying watching like everything self-destruct.
Yeah, Howard keeps doing this thing which infuriates Kim, which is assuming that all of her actions are because of Jimmy. Like she quit Schweikart and Coakley. And Howard just automatically assumed it was because of Jimmy, when in reality she'd been wanting to quit that job for a while. And as soon as she hears that Cliff Main is having lunch with Kim, he automatically assumes it's just a Jimmy thing, that Kim's not really in on it.
Right.
It's this sort of
like lack of
underestimate, as if she lacks the agency.
Exactly. Yes. And respect.
And I think that's infuriated her a bit, but I can absolutely understand it from Howard's perspective, because she quit HHM to have a joint business venture, I guess, with Jimmy, or share an office.
Yes,
right,
with Jimmy.
Right, and then like she also Howard and Kim have a little bit of like a it's mostly one sided with Kim, but I'm not sure. I think that's her more dealing with her grief. But in season 4, where she visits Howard and she's like, "Why are you spilling out your feelings in front of Jimmy and why you're doing this, like, which I think like is her being genuine, but also her kind of like she's definitely dealing with the guilt.
She sees how Howard's words affected Jimmy in terms of the suicide and stuff, and she doesn't understand why Jimmy's acting the way he is, so she blames Howard because, truth be told, I go back and forth between that particular scenario, like because Howard is feeling terrible and he wants to tell somebody, and he chooses to tell Jimmy and Kim, but I think Kim brings up a good point. It is messed up on the day of his funerals to like say, hey, yeah, maybe he killed himself. That's my theory. Like, hey, maybe he set himself on fire. And like, he didn't tell Chuck's wife. He didn't tell her ex-wife. So like, when Kim says you did it to make him feel better, I think you said it to make yourself feel better. I think that is partly
some truth in that.
Yeah, I think
I also though think like at this point in the season, like Howard of the three of them is the only one who properly dealt with Chuck's death.
Just like, part of the reason why Jimmy went after Howard in season 5.
100%. I think Howard sort of reminds.
How can Howard be okay?
Right, like he's sort of spiteful of that, which is interesting because in season 4 he's sort of like, get your shit together, Howard. And then he does. Sort of.
Well, yeah, Jimmy was talking to himself a lot.
100%.
Because he had just had a major setback of Wexler and McGill kind of not being a thing, not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
So it was like one little setback, and you're gonna. So it's. I love it. I love the dialogue in that way. He's talking.
There's so much to talk about here. Oh my god! Like each part of the step. There's also, I feel like Howard. Like we could just. He has his own little plot line going on.
This is the most Howard's ever had.
Which makes sense
on this show, which I knew was leading to something bad.
Yeah, but I like how we do see, like, we see him talking to his therapist. We finally see, for one scene, see his wife, which I think is going to come back. We'll talk about that. I think.
I think he's doing everything in his power to make good out of a bad situation in terms of Jimmy affecting him. Like. The boxing thing is strange, but I think it's such a Howard way to take care of something.
Well, I think Howard...
It's like, I just want to leave it all on the table. Like, do whatever you want to do. Yeah,
I think Howard just honestly deals with things way better than Jimmy and Kim. Like he's always kicked down, but he has like a healthy way of approaching it. And like he has this attitude, like I'm always going to bounce.
Bad emotions.
Right. He confronts it. He has this optimistic view. Like I'm always going to bounce back. I'm always going to land on my feet. I'm always going to, it's like a very like it's very like respectful. I don't know, like I really have like grown to really love Howard, and he's just sort of a character that you sort of like root for. Like it's almost like he's like, it's like not that he's the protagonist, but he sort of follows a protagonist journey of like going through trauma and then healing from it and becoming a better person. But obviously he's sort of like at the center of it all. And it's just like you watch it and it kind of gets more and more sadder as you realize, the PI isn't against him and no one's on his side. And like, he's just so isolated and alone, but he's still able to like cope with it somewhat. Like, it's just like, I don't know, like it's sort of sad. I don't know. It's not enjoyable to watch. I mean, it's enjoyable to watch. No, I love the show.
It's enjoyable to watch, but like it's tough.
It's so like, hard. It was so difficult.
That was a tough watch for me personally. My heart was racing so much during all the Howard stuff in the last episode.
But it was also
because it was incredible. It was really, really I felt pulled in two different directions.
Yes,
in that particular way. Because I like seeing entertaining stuff work, but also
satisfying to see the plan come to fruition. Like I love how they just didn't blow their load and just say, "All right, here's the plan." This, like, they just slowly reveal parts of it, and you're like, "Wait, what's going on with this fucking like substance from the vet, and what's going on with like the car keys, and what's going on with like all this stuff and the photos and
also satisfying like how the whole time it's happening, Howard knows what the fuck's happening." And like it's like he but that also seems to be part of the plan. Like they know Howard's gonna figure it out.
Part of the plan is Howard thinking he knows the plan.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
Because he thinks it's making him look like a druggie. But it's actually It's one step above.
It's way more.
He thinks he
yeah.
has the upper hand by having people follow him.
By having
I
the
think
PI and
basically
the photos,
the
yeah.
audience. I can't speak for anyone else, but I'm pretty sure by the end of season 6, you basically know what Jimmy and Kim's plan is.
You mean episode 6?
To make it look like the mediator is taking the cut, but you aren't
Yes.
sure. Well, how do you get the photos to him, right? And how do you do that without the PI? And so I kind of said, well, the PI has to be on their side,
Yeah.
but how in the world is he on their side? But Howard figures it, explains it.
Yes.
That works out.
Yeah. He has that little explanation. There's one scene I want to talk about specifically with Howard. Maybe you can explain this to me or share your thoughts. What do you think about the boxing scene?
I love it.
You love it, okay?
Because it is to me, it's such a Howard way to take care of things, right? I think he likes taking care of things head on.
Yeah.
He sees that Jimmy is still doing the stuff even after his blow up, and he doesn't think of Kim at all, right? He's just thinking about Jimmy. He's thinking, he thinks he understands Jimmy's motivation, and it's not a long-term scam. It's little things like bowling ball, and it's just a continuation of that. Now it's planning drugs, and so he's like, okay, he just wants this to be done. How in the world can he get this to be done? Well, Jimmy wants to take shots at him, right? What about physically? What about actually like get all your anger out on me, right? That sort of thing. And he knows that if that doesn't work, I love his like, do I think it'll work? I don't know. Call it a Hail Mary. That's really what it is. It's like it's his last option before he starts hiring PIs to follow Jimmy and like get him in actual trouble. I don't necessarily think Howard wants Jimmy to get in trouble.
No.
Except Jimmy's really forcing his hand.
Right.
This is like his last. It's genuinely, it's a Hail Mary. I think it's the last thing he can possibly think of doing. And plus, it gets Jimmy to that place so he can have a PI follow him.
Yeah.
Afterwards. So
yes,
I understand that like the story reason for it, but I don't know. The boxing scene felt a little weird to me. Like it was a little bit.
Weird, yeah.
It was like it felt like like it just didn't feel like it belonged in the show. Like it felt very. The whole scene just felt very weird to me. I don't really know how to explain. Like out of water, like experience, like fish out of water. Like what am I? Wait, what? We're boxing now?
It's kind of meant to be weird. Like it's so out of place that it's almost like it's intentional.
I don't know.
It didn't bother me at all.
I mean, it didn't really bother me, but I would say it was probably like one of my least favorite scenes of the whole season. Like I just I know what they were going for, but it just felt a little bit. It felt a little bit cartoony, which I don't always mind. I mean, Breaking Bad is super cartoony, and so this all has its moments too. But like it just felt like a
little too cute.
A little too cute. Yeah, you got it.
I understand where you're coming from. I will say the things I really, really like about the scene are the fact that neither of them are good boxers. I love the fact that Jimmy doesn't take it seriously at all at first, and Howard's into it. But when you get taken a shot, the adrenaline starts pumping, and Jimmy actually starts trying at some point. Because he's like, this is so weird, right? So Jimmy's not taking it seriously at all. I'm the champ. He's bouncing on the ropes. I think it also says a lot about both of these characters. Howard, I've already explained, but Jimmy also does it, and I think Kim accurately says why he did it, because he knows what's coming. I think he's letting Howard get his shots in.
Yeah, I think you're right.
At a certain point, he's going along with Howard's thing because he knows it's going to be much longer. So it doesn't. I think Jimmy feels worse for Howard than Kim does, because Jimmy's already done stuff to Howard.
I think
so. I like the way it reflects on characters, and I love how goofy it is.
I think we see Jimmy be a lot more sympathetic throughout this plot. I mean, we see how he handles like the Kettlemans. Like he feels bad for them. Like he gives them.
He has a soft spot for criminals.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I don't think
and how society views them. And
yeah, which I think Kim like also does, but she is willing to put that aside at points to, get what she wants to get done.
Yeah. That particular scene with Kim and the Kettlemans, they made sure to linger that she sees a little old lady getting into her car, and Kim knows that there's a tax scam. That does not rub her right, messing with old people.
That's true.
Or I think anybody, really.
That's true. Yeah. We also see the guy who sold the car to Walt.
That is not him.
It's
It
not
was
him?
confirmed.
Oh,
Yeah,
man. Everyone
it
told
just
me
happens
that.
to be the same car.
I believed everybody.
Yeah.
Damn, I fell for it, guys. I thought it was the same guy.
No, that's okay. Listen, little connections like that are lovely, but it's
Yeah,
not
because
the
I knew it was the
same
same car.
actor.
It's not. Is it the same car?
It is the same car. It is the same type of. It looks. It's not the same vehicle in universe.
Okay.
It's
Got
the same make and model.
Got
but
it.
the one in universe is much more rusted, and yeah, it wouldn't make sense if it was the same one. Unfortunately.
Got it. We do see.
I did think that though. Yeah.
I don't remember his name. The ATM dude from Breaking Bad. I don't remember his name.
Booge, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we got a lot of callbacks. Francesca.
Saul
comes back.
says that when Walt says, "I heard that Badger's boss killed," when he's first meeting with Saul, he's like, I heard Badger works for a man who crushed a guy's head with an ATM machine," and Saul's like, "People like to take credit for the fun ones. The guy who got crushed, he used to be a client of mine. His wife killed him, open and shut." So,
oh wow.
So he actually mentions that Spooge was his client.
Yeah,
I rewatched all the Saul and Meg scenes edited together.
I'm really struggling with this plotline. There's just so much to talk about.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to like organize it. I don't know.
No, I'm sorry. I keep jumping back and forth.
No, I know. I'm doing it too. It's fine. We'll kind of say everything that happens in the last episode with this plotline in just a second. Like we'll get to it and we'll really dive deep into the last episode because I think that's when that's like the culmination of everything, and we can like point back to, oh yeah, this happens, which calls back to this. But are there any moments between then that you really want to like any conversations, any like lines? So many, I know.
I love I already mentioned the Wicked thing. I think that Jimmy knows what they're doing is wrong, but he doesn't care and he likes doing it. I think Kim feels like what she's doing is right because she knows that at the end, months from now, she feels that everyone's lives are going to be better because she'll have a pro bono practice up and be able to help a lot more people. She picks up a lot of PD overflow in end of season 5, and she really wants to have the resources to take care of that. And if it means bruising Howard a little bit to get that, then
it's like a bonus to her.
And getting the old folks their money sooner.
Correct.
Yes.
So because I don't think it's necessarily a one-sided black and white, that sandpaper stuff.
No, there's
I don't think
stuff happening deeper for sure.
I think it's reasonable for the people to not want to wait for more money, but get a little less money now.
Yeah, and we see in the last episode how they're kind of like smoozing up to the old people. Like they're kind of like we even see
hey, sit in a wheelchair
episode before. Yeah, that part like pandering to them. But even the part before when like it's getting out of control and then Howard steps in.
Yeah, because Aaron he steps in right when Aaron Brill says, you can seek independent counsel, and Howard's like, oh, and he interrupts.
Yeah,
like that's exactly not what you want to say.
Yeah, and he like schmoozes them all away. Yeah, so there definitely is like that. You can tell like Kim is combating that, and she obviously saw that and worked with that when she worked with Howard. So there's
the other thing I want to mention was the do you want to be a friend of the cartel or do you want to be a rat? When talking about they've put together that Lalo Salamanca is Jorge de Guzman. I don't know if it's because of what Jimmy did or if it was because of something else. I don't think that's clear.
Yes.
I like to think it was because of what Jimmy did, but
Yes.
I don't think I think some people have said that it's her leaning towards he shouldn't tell. I don't think that's the case. I think these two things are. I think being a friend of their cartel, neither Jimmy nor Kim want that.
Right.
It got real scary real fast. That is a very dangerous scenario. But being a rat, the way she phrases it, is really dangerous too.
Yeah.
So it's a rock and a hard place. That's the episode.
Yeah, that is the episode. And her question is very like the way she phrases it and puts emphasis on it of like, or do you want to be a rat? Is almost like implying like the choice to take. Like, don't be a rat. Basically, is what she's saying. Yes. But
I actually think she's leaving it up to Jimmy. That's my.
Do you think so?
I do think so.
My interpretation is I think that she is giving Jimmy the illusion of choosing. I very much think.
Yes, I mean, like I feel like she's definitely pushing him toward the first option. Like if you listen to the way she says, "Or do you want to be a rat?" It's a very like that's like, do you want to be this or do you want to be a fuck up? Like.
It's not like she could say, do you want to be a friend of the cartel or do you want to do the right thing? It's like, no, do you want to be a friend of the cartel Or do you want to be a
Do you want
rat?
to be a little bitch?
Like the way she puts emphasis on the word rat
Right.
really gives me the like where she's giving it up like it's a choice, but she's really pushing Jimmy in a way to, I think, like not fuck up their plan.
Yeah,
and not rat because it will, it could bounce back on them. And we even see her have that scene with the attorney, I think in the next episode. And she, I like that back and forth. Like she pretty much is like at the point where she's like, like starting to like bring her prowess of like scamming and stuff into her professional life. And, she's
always been very defensive of people's interpretations of Jimmy, especially her.
Yeah. And even in that scene, she says he goes by Saul. Like he goes by Saul now. Like which again, like she also in the first episode is like, she's like almost like painting the picture for Jimmy. It's like, what kind of car would Saul Goodman drive? Or what kind of clothes will Saul Goodman? Like she's almost like really influencing that flashy element, like bringing that out of him, which we see in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
So
I think Saul Goodman is both of their creations.
Yeah, I think we're seeing Kim's heavy influence on that. And I think that question too of like, are you a friend of the cartel or a rat is another moment of Kim shaping how she wants Saul to be projected, basically.
Yeah, this is all speculation because we don't know. We'll probably go into it more, but
definitely.
When thinking about Kim and her role in shaping Saul Goodman, it makes me reflect on the very first episode of the very first scene of this series, where Saul Goodman is replaying tapes of his commercials over and over. Mm-hmm. I always interpreted that as being nostalgic for being Saul Goodman, but maybe it's also like this creation of Saul Goodman. Like maybe he's also thinking about Kim in that way. It's impossible to know at this point, but I've heard that as an interpretation.
Right, and I mean, yeah.
And continuing on being Saul Goodman, my prediction is that she's not in the picture at all during Breaking Bad. I just cannot see that.
We'll definitely get to that, I think. But I agree.
It just makes me think about all that.
I actually have a very specific prediction with Kim that I didn't have until the end of this. Like during this break, I kind of thought about it. So the point I wanted to bring up was Saul. We see Saul Goodman's life kind of coming together. Like he gets his office. And Francesca's back in the picture. And like, we started to see like familiar faces that are in the story. Like even, what's her name? Comes back. The sex worker. Candy? Wendy. Why did I think Candy? Wendy. That's what it is. Wendy. Yes. So it's like a lot of like, of like that sort of like, it's like his life's really coming together. And I think like it's interesting to see Kim's influence in that because she's really bringing it out of him. She's really sort of like piecing it together, I think. And I just really like how we're seeing her like thumbprint on that in a lot of ways. And it's just fascinating. And it feels very natural. Like it's not like they're, Francesca was in the show before, so it feels kind of natural to bring her in and bring her back. I kind of actually have a weird, I wrote a couple of notes like symbolisms and stuff later, and I actually have stuff about her, which was kind of surprising. Like I didn't write much, but like she's one of the things I wrote about, which we'll talk about later, I think. But yeah, I like that a lot. I also think here's this is I'm not gonna say this prediction. It's not like a huge prediction. I think it's like pretty safe. Do you guys think that the crew like of the three people that like help him film this stuff, like the cameraman, the girl who does the makeup, and the other guy who I guess does audio. I don't know. Do you think those are the same people that are filming his commercials and Breaking Bad?
I've always thought that.
Absolutely.
I 100%
I've always thought that. Yeah.
So I think that's fascinating. Is we're seeing like them get more involved. I imagine like,
you know that you have rights. Constitution says you do.
Yeah,
so,
like I'm excited to see like that sort of come into the picture.
And of course, him saying "I'll fight for you," he does that at the end of most of his commercials during Breaking Bad.
Yeah,
and that's Kim said that on the toilet.
Yep,
right after the boxing. He even there's a very particular commercial that wasn't ever in the show. There's hardly any of these commercials really in the show Breaking Bad. But there was some DVD extras. There was one that centered on boxing, and he's in boxing gloves in his office. And he says, "I'll fight for you, Albuquerque." Yeah.
Oh wow, that's interesting.
Never considered those canon, but hey, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the other moments, like with Kim turning around the car, that was a big moment. It definitely was like, all right, like bad choice for her. Right, we get it.
You
Like,
really want to do like that. That kind of makes Kim's justification fall apart in terms of her justification of doing good things in the long run, because that sounded like a really good thing you could have done.
yeah,
Right.
like she really threw that away. But it's very so interestingly enough. I noticed this. Someone I think brought this up online, but I did kind of also make the connection when the episode started. So we saw 2 flashback scenes of Kim, and the one we saw in season 5, and then a second episode, she brings up the idea at the end of getting married to Jimmy, which is a big moment for her character. And then in this episode, where we see her flashback, she makes a choice to go back and turn around and change her career. So when we see these 2 flashbacks, they are followed up by 2 pivotal decisions that Kim make that in both these cases sort of lead her down, I think, with the road she's going, which isn't a good one. But I really like that. I guess we could also talk about the flashback scene too, which was
my interpretation was that Kim was kind of looking to be punished because her mom doesn't really do that. Like, I don't think her mom, I don't think Kim stole those things necessarily because she felt like stealing, like she wanted to.
Definitely not. I don't think that's.
I think it was because she wanted her mom to react how she know other like moms are supposed to react, and she didn't quite get what she wanted. You could tell she was disappointed.
It was a cry for help.
Yeah, it was kind of like she wanted some structure, she wanted some punishment, because that's what parents are supposed to do, right? You do something wrong, the parents are supposed to instill in you, hey, that's wrong, you shouldn't do that. I think it kind of establishes that she's had to do that for herself. She's had to establish what's right and wrong for herself, and she's twisting that in season 6 because she's really able to convince herself. I think maybe that's why she got into law. She's really being able to convince herself that this is right. What is the law isn't necessary from her perspective. What is legal, what is illegal doesn't necessarily translate to what is right and what is wrong. So it's, I think she's found a way to convince herself to do stuff that she likes while also looking at it through like a feeling that it's moral, feeling that because she's helping a lot of people, this is okay to do what she's doing. And I think that's kind of how it ties in. But
no, that's very well said.
Yes,
I couldn't have said it better. I also like how you can kind of also see where she gets like her approach from, like where she gets her like that sort of like, I don't know, like spark in her. Like, it's all right, it's in her mom. Like, I feel like Jimmy.
The casting for the mom's incredible.
Yes.
Oh my god, yeah, it was amazing. Like, for basically that whole scene, I thought that Reese Horn was playing her mother as well. Like, for that whole scene, I thought that. I was convinced, and then I was amazed when I found out it was not.
I was not convinced. You and I'm like,
no,
sure?
Because
but I believe
I knew
you.
from
like,
last flashback it wasn't.
Yeah.
But also, young Kim did a really good job too.
Yes.
The way she like the tapping of the foot and the way she held herself.
Which she doesn't.
It doesn't fall into the mistakes of the characters being exactly how they are as adults, as children. That always annoys me in shows in movies and stuff, where you see a younger version, like a kid version, and they're basically exactly the same, which would go against the antithesis of this show, which is that everyone changes over time.
Yeah.
But you can see where she came from.
The actress definitely does a good job, like using
especially
the reflections of Kim.
Yeah, those earrings, which has always been pointed out, that Kim wears the same earrings, which is not typical. I've heard from females who wear earrings that usually don't wear the same earrings over and over, but Kim does in this show. She has it very organized like that, and I think now we know they've basically retconned it to make it that it's from her mother. It's she doesn't have any family photos. She doesn't have any sort of anything relating to the past in her apartment, and that was very deliberately done. I listened to an interview with the set decorator who came up with Kim's apartment in like the second season, and that it was very intentional that there wasn't anything like about her past or like any sort of family photos or anything. And so the earrings kind of represents that. Like, that's the only thing she has from her mother, presumably.
Yeah.
And maybe she regrets that, whatever happened with her and her mother. Maybe we'll never know. we never really knew what happened with gray matter with Walt. So maybe it's that sort of situation.
Right. Yeah. I think that's something that can be left up through interpretation. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think we need a third.
No.
Kim.
Something happened with her and her mother.
Yeah.
That's
I think
all
it can
we
be
need.
pretty speculated. I mean, it seems like there was also in that flashback scene with her in the last season driving drunk. Like it seems like the relationship's very toxic. So it wouldn't be surprising for it to boil over and Kim to be like, I just need to get the hell out of here.
Kim has a better moral compass than her mother.
Yeah, but her mom, I think also
As a
like
kid.
we're seeing what her mom is doing. It's sort of like paralleling what Kim is doing now and being like, all right, like there's some of that in Kim still, which is why I think like when you see her in the season 2 do her kind of first scam with Jimmy, it's sort of like, okay, like Jimmy just it's always kind of been in her. Jimmy's just able to sort of something about Jimmy is able to get that out.
They enable each other.
Exactly.
Which I will get to. Actually, I could say it right now, really fast.
Okay.
Days of Wine and Roses is the song that plays at the very beginning of the season. The episode's called Wine and Roses. It was a song that was prominently featured in a film called Days of Wine and Roses, which features a couple who enable each other's alcoholism.
Okay.
And it made me think a lot of
That's
that.
That's a wow. That's very.
And I heard the creator say, pay very close attention to the song that plays.
Okay.
And so I did.
Yeah, awesome. That's a really good observation.
Yeah.
All right, let's fucking.
I'm not going to tell you how that film ends, though, just in case it parallels.
Okay, good to know. Let's get to old Howard. Let's get to the last episode where everything blows up.
Yep.
You know, it's fascinating to see Jimmy and Kim like really like scramble to get this plan done. Like they're just like throwing everything aside, doing everything last minute because they're just so committed to it, which is obviously stemming from Kim because Jimmy's willing to pull out. It's just I love how the last episode opens up, but then like it's like we see it's like a good way of explaining their plan, not giving everything away, but like kind of like tying all the stuff they've been setting up to set up what's going to happen. And I like that because it would have been it's a lot more interesting to do that in like the episode where it happens than to just drag that out and just explain everything slowly throughout the season. It's just cool to leave little hints and then have like one little sequence that kind of it's like in case you're not aware of what they're setting up, kind of really set everything up, you know, reveal the PI's working with them and just like set up like the domino to kick everything off for the rest of the episode. I really like how they did it. And I like the cinematography around it. I like that sort of like one shot moment where the camera's going all over the place and Kim's running in. And I love too how Kim is the director. She's like the director of everything. Like
the actress was the director of season 4 or episode 4 rather.
Yes. But I like how she's like, you know, like how like in the Kim and Jimmy relationship this season, like she's the director. She's the one in charge. She's the one calling the shots. And Jimmy is the actor. He is the one performing this role. I really like that symbolized in that moment there. And then of course we get the fucking the sequence with Howard.
Irene Lander's back. I was excited to see her again.
That was cool.
When Jimmy scammed her in end of season 3.
Yeah.
But then he reversed it. But then
yes.
It's funny. Basically everyone in that boardroom, Jimmy is screwed over in one way or the other.
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And yet Howard's the only one that's like, you know, like he's yeah, but it's set up so perfectly. Like it's set up so perfectly where like no matter what he says, like he just looks unhinged. Cause like everything is so I just love everything about that. But I guess before we get to the actual, we should talk about the scene before. I do want to talk about the scene before where Howard is talking to the worker where he he spills the soda and
which actually works, by the way, the spinning of the can. I tried it. I stuck up a can and spun it. And it works,
Yeah, and there's definitely some symbolism there with like the force and the explosion, obviously, of what's to come, and
spinning the can, spinning the silencer.
As soon as this motherfucker brought up fucking Chuck, I'm like, oh fuck, Howard's gonna fucking die, really? No. Motherfucker's like, yeah, with Chuck, you know, and it's like, oh god.
I love the way that he describes Chuck. Like he was one of the greatest minds of law, but maybe there's more important things.
Yes,
I think that shows a lot of growth in Howard.
A lot of growth, like a lot
I
of.
I also loved the fact that the new employee didn't know who Chuck was. Like that was a great little detail. it worked out perfectly. Right, exactly. Like, how would it? And then Howard's like, oh yeah, that's right. I need to provide context to this.
Yeah.
I love the way they use that painting. The last time we've been here was the finale of season 4.
Yeah.
And Chuck's painting was there looking at Jimmy as they're doing the
Yeah.
scholarship fund, which leads to Jimmy's breakdown, presumably. And now it's like Chuck looking over this scam that's being done with Howard in that room. The painting makes sense in universe, but it also makes sense in like a thematic way.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Howard also is like, he also like foreshadows throughout the show that this is, this makes sense. I mean, he sees Kim and Jimmy kind of like run that scam and chicanery, but also there's that line where I think does he say it to Kim? I don't remember where he says, who really knew Jimmy? Chuck. Like he's almost like aware of like Jimmy is sort of like everyone that he's been close to is sort of like had a destruction moment, and then Howard gets his. Again, the kind of, I know it's different than Chuck, but it's sort of like that parallel too, which I really enjoy. Between the two of them, sort of like in their moment, like this is the moment where sort of Jimmy and Kim set up the path of dominoes that have unintended consequences. In both cases.
Yeah. In terms of the actual scam itself, I thought it was brilliant that they didn't tell him, like the PI did not tell him who it was in the photos. PI's like, I don't know, I thought you'd recognize him.
Right.
Because so many of the scams in the show, and scams in general, work by having the person who's getting scammed
piece it together.
Like figure out something, because they think that they've done it. Like
they think
if they feel smart, if they feel smart, then it makes it work way better generally.
Yeah, it's so, which is why it makes that scene so satisfying, because what's happening and the seeds are set up and everything's planted to the point where like when it starts happening, you're like, oh, like exactly what's going to happen, and it's like, well, what's going to happen because like it just makes sense, like it's just lined up so perfectly, and also obviously they have him fucking like his heart racing and his mind's fucking all over the place, and yeah, it's just like a perfect culmination. It's like that soda can. It's like a perfect fucking, like, it's like fizzing up, and it's going to explode, and then you see it explode, and it's fucking awful. But also oddly satisfying. And at points humorous, like that moment where he shows the Frisbee, the fucking, it's so like, it's like painful, but it's like genuinely funny. It's like genuinely really funny. It's like sick and twisted. Yeah. I think that, I mean, again, I get the show always just does an excellent job. Like, both shows, both Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, just do such a spectacular job of tying up loose ends, satisfying build up, having the explosion make sense with the setup, but also be sort of subvertive, because you're a part of you is like doubting it's going to happen, or like is hoping it doesn't happen. It just does such a fantastic job with that. And this scene was just, the whole last episode was fan-fucking-tastic. It was one of my favorites of the show, but that whole sequence was just like just orchestrated excellent. Just so excellently done. And
also, I think what's brilliant about it is that it doesn't matter if Cliff Main believes Howard or not.
No.
Like I don't necessarily think Cliff Main disbelieves him at the end,
but I think he does. Yeah, I mean, he knew Jimmy.
Yeah. I think that it, and I love that the more Howard tries to explain it, the more crazy it sounds, because it is crazy. It's such an elaborate.
It is entirely crazy.
Yes.
And I don't blame anyone for not believing.
The judge is like, "You're following me."
So yeah, Cliff Main is a really tough position. I think it just makes sense.
Yeah, and I think he is thinking, he just says, like, he's put in the position where he's forced to go against Howard because he needs to do stuff for the clients. Like, he realizes, like, he just set things up where it's all irrelevant who did what at this point. What's more important is
they're not getting any more money. It's going $1 million.
Yeah, which was the scam. But Howard is unaware of that. Like they set it up so with like the judge, they think like Jimmy's planning to like trying to compromise the meeting and trying to like do something like fucked up, but then he realizes at the end, like, oh, like I see what he's doing. By the time he fucking the pieces all together, it's too late. Like everything's set in motion to where they get what they want. And even like Cliff is like, why would Jimmy want to get less money? Why would he? This doesn't
He
make
wants
any
it
sense.
now.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to wait for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also it's fun. All of the above. So many reasons.
Yeah, but I like how he's like Cliff is questioning it. Like they really did a good job of like planting the seeds and setting everything up, and making it so Cliff does have the ammunition. If Howard's like, no, we're taking this court, he does have the power over him. They'd be like, I'm going to tell the board everything I've seen, and Howard's like, oh fuck, well, rip. I guess I gotta go with this shit, but. Yeah.
It reminds me, it's when we're talking about motivations of Jimmy and Kim, it reminds me of the scene in The Vet. When they're talking about which also has the black book we see at the beginning of this season. And the vacuum repair, obviously.
Yep.
And I love how, to me, it's very poignant when he leaves and they're talking, and Jimmy's like, oh, what a waste, right? Like selling all these contacts and whatever. And Kim's looking at the board of pets and she's like, well, he knows what he wants, right?
Yeah.
Like in which is so important. Like you do these things and you have to know really what it's for. And they're both telling themselves incorrect answers in that moment.
And I don't think
of like,
Jimmy
well, why are
knows
we really doing this?
what he's doing it for. I don't think Jimmy really, I mean, I think like Jimmy, like
They both think they do.
Yeah, I think, well, I think especially when
Kim has more of a solid reason.
Where Kim says he knows what he wants in life. I don't think Jimmy knows what he wants in life. I think he's very lost, and I think like Kim, like his relationship with Kim, they're just, again, like you mentioned, both enabling each other in terrible ways.
I think he knows he wants Kim, and I think that's a lot of the reason why he's doing this.
He wants to please Kim. He has that like mentality, like just like he did with his brother. Like he just really wants Jimmy really all he really wants is just to be loved.
He seeks an external validation.
Correct.
Yeah, which is like
over and over again.
Yeah, like
he wants to be loved.
Yeah, 100%.
And I just want to be.
This show's always been about love. Is like the main, like with every plot line. I've always thought of it like that.
Like yeah. Like the rejection of love, or like the, I don't know, like the transformation of love. Another symbolism of that is when fucking Howard spends all that time making that coffee or that whatever it is, like the drink, like the heart, and then fucking just dumps it in the fucking
puts it in a little travel
cup. Like that was such an excellent like sequence.
What a good way to establish a relationship that we've never heard of before.
Yeah, and I also like the line where he says, oh, like he mentions to his wife, oh, she's going to like stay at, her friend's house or at some other house. She's like, oh, like mention me, or he says something about like mentioning him, and she's like, oh, I will. And it's like, Joe Howard. Well, it's just let's show this just so when the knife gets twisted, it feels even more painful. Which I guess we're gonna get to now. All right, let's fucking talk about it. The final scene of the season, everything culminating. What a fucking fantastic scene. A lot of stuff to unravel. I guess we'll talk first about the Howard stuff. Howard comes in and he just straight up spits facts. Howard literally is like, all right, I'm just about to like literally say the most like fundamental truths about these two characters.
I feel like he's had a little bit to drink.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But like, it's still he gets right to the heart of the matter and it hits every single point immediately.
I think he's correct, except for a couple key points. But it makes sense from his perspective. He says, I mean, he's trying to figure it out. I think he's like, what do you tell yourselves? Like, what things did I do?
I put you in doc review.
I think it's kind of fantastic the way he kind of processes it through his mind. And the way that they can't play along, because last time Jimmy was recorded by Chuck. So like, it's still possible Howard was recording. I don't think he was. But
there's one line that kind of gives away, like they're kind of playing along, but like they're not like admitting to it, in which Jimmy says to Howard, "Oh, you always land on your feet." Like, like not denying what they did, but being like, like even if we did do this.
Kim gives him a look when he says that.
Yes.
It's like, well, I'll be careful. Yeah, I basically agree with Howard on everything. When he says, Jimmy, you're born this way, I think that's where he loses me a little bit.
Well, that is definitely Howard's influence, I think, though.
Absolutely. That's Chuck. That's viewing. Chuck was right. Like, you were born this way, sort of thing. I think some of that. I think he believes that, but I also think
I think he does.
He's he says sociopaths. You're born this way.
Mm.
He's really right about getting off on it. But
both of them, yeah.
Yeah, but I think he's off base when he's talking about like sociopath, and because that simplifies it too much, right? But that's I think that's what he thinks, though. And plus, he's just saying how he feels.
Yeah, and that again is just a really smart way of showing like Chuck's influence, on Howard, and showing how like that mentality still lives in Howard, and still kind of haunts Saul, or haunts Jimmy. Like that still, it will always be there. And I think Jimmy sort of views Howard in that way. Like he views Howard as a part of Chuck, or like he sees a lot of Chuck in Howard, I think.
He's transferred his view from Chuck to Howard a bit.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And because he did the same thing to Kim in season 4.
Yeah. I like pretty much the whole sequence. They have the whole monologue he has, and how he he sort of, even when he mentioned, he brings up that stuff that he says about like, oh, you were born this way. He still says it in a very like dismissive way, and almost says it in a way like it's like you can't help it. Like, it's who you are, which is very patronizing. Mm-hmm. But I think
it's
also
very Chuck, because that's how Chuck always was with Jimmy.
Yes.
It's like it's who you are.
Right, but I think there was a little bit more menacing element to Chuck. Like I think Howard honestly is. I don't think he really, even at this point, like is like menacingly has hatred towards Jimmy. Like I think at this point he's sort of just like, he's like, it's who you are. Like it's almost like he feels sad for him, but like he definitely does not feel sad for Kim. Like he's definitely like, you had all this promise, you could have, like he almost has like this recognition of like you, which is true, that you made this choice, like you turned around the car, even though he obviously doesn't know that, but it's like symbolic of that. Like you made the choices, you were smart enough to see past this, and you kind of wasted the potential you had for this, which is all very true, even if he's unaware of how true it is.
Yeah. And he's obviously planning on going after them for this. He's never gone after them for anything they've done up to this point. Except maybe hire a PI, which isn't really going after them. But
no, it's just kind of trying to figure out what's the truth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is what he's saying when Lalo comes in. Which I think
let's talk about it. The candle.
Candle. Yes, it makes sense that the candle would be there. They're celebrating. And it makes sense that happens when you open a door, especially on stories up like that. There's a breeze that comes in.
So I love that shot when Howard's talking. It's always that moment where like Howard's like, I'm gonna dedicate my life to whatever. I'm gonna dedicate, and you're like, oh well, that's your last. That's you go. You
dedicate the rest of my life.
The rest of your life.
Yep. You just
you're right, Howard.
You're right, and you just send yourself to death. Congratulations. As soon as he said that, and then while he's saying that, it shows the candle moving. Oh, okay, here we go. And then, of course, Lalo walks in.
Which he can do that because Mike's guys were pulled off of Jimmy and Kim to focus on Gus.
Yep. Take their guys off the low priority housing. Yep.
I don't even think necessarily Lalo knew that. I think that might have been a little bit more coincidental because I don't think Lalo necessarily knows the connection between Jimmy and Mike and Gus necessarily. It's hard to see things from his perspective.
I think he definitely knows that. I think
why he's there.
I think I think you're right. I don't think he would have realized that, but I think even like he kind of like gets lucky in that circumstance. But there's not really much to say at this point. The scene kind of speaks for himself. Lalo walks in. I love how they're just begging Howard to go, and Lalo's like, no, stay. Like, pulling out the gun, and Howard sort of has that realization of like, oh shit, like I'm kind of in the middle of something here.
This is not good.
It sounded like he started to argue for Jimmy and Kim's behalf. He says, it looks like I'm in the middle of something. There's really no need to, and then he gets shot in mid sentence.
Yeah.
On to Oh wait, I'll say it later.
Well, what I like too is like when like he first walks in, like they're kind of like desperate, like you need to go, Howard, you need to go. And I think a part of Howard, he doesn't immediately recognize danger, but he immediately recognizes like, wait a minute, is this like a shady figure? Like, am I seeing something I'm not supposed to? Like, I don't think I think like that's why like it kind of makes sense that like he already has that seed planted.
Yeah.
Like he already would respond to that naturally, and it's too late at that point. He's not going to believe them.
I don't think there's anything Howard could have done. I think if he tried to run, I think Lalo probably closed the door and locked it. I mean, you could, but I think Lalo would have shot him.
Yeah.
And now here's where we have a lot of unanswered question about the motivation behind Lalo's actions. Because I feel like I don't think, some people have suggested this, I don't think he shot Howard because Howard said, I'm going to dedicate my life to... No. I've seen some people suggest that for whatever reason.
No. He realized he wasn't in the game.
He needs Jimmy and Kim to take him seriously, and they didn't take him seriously last time he was in this apartment. He suspects that he lied to them. I don't think he necessarily believed Kim, but I think he just had different priorities at that point. Like, it's just not worth my time.
And there was definitely some truth that Kim said about like, him not being able to trust anybody, and that only got proven true since she said it. Yeah. So I think like Lalo is just he is like he realizes that he has to kind of be dependent on Jimmy and Kim in this circumstance. But yeah, I mean we'll kind of talk about when we get the predictions, but I think there's a lot of stuff that's going to happen here that they set up in the first little bit here. But anything else we want to mention about Jimmy and Kim? Any other scenes? As I know there's a couple going through my head, but I don't really have much to say about them.
There's a little scene with Viola and Kim in the restaurant.
Yeah.
Which
is kind of twisted. Where she's kind of like scamming her. Yeah.
Yeah. She got information from her.
Yeah.
About the Sandpiper. But also just like when Viola obviously really admires Kim and what she's done in her position in the law and stuff, and really like values what she's doing. Like, you make me feel better about the law, and that's where the scene ends. You can see Kim just kind of like sipping on her tea or whatever.
Yeah. It's very
at some level knows.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Doing something and
anyway. Yeah. All right. All right. You know what? I was going to say this for when we get to themes, but I think I'm going to talk about it now because I just want to talk about Kim a little bit more. Let's say it. I think Kim makes the biggest choice she makes in this show so far. And two big decisions. I know one of them is obviously turning around the road, but I'm not talking about that one. I'm talking about the decision, very, very, I think, questionable and really like, it's just so integral to everything that happens, the dominoes falling. The decision to not mention anything about Lalo being alive to Jimmy. That is so enormous. That's like her biggest moment is not her doing something, but her not doing something.
I have a lot of thoughts about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say the symbolism, but we might as well talk about it now. What are your thoughts on that?
So first of all, I love immediately after she's told by Mike, the next scene we see him in is Jimmy really excited about getting an office, showing her the office with the toilet in it and stuff. Yeah. And you presume maybe she's going to tell him then, but she doesn't. And we exit that scene with her looking over her shoulder. Mm-hmm. And then the next scene, she's lying awake at night and looking at a clock that says 3:17, but on its side, it says the word lie. Because that's essentially what she's doing. And I love that little detail.
I never noticed that.
Yeah. Huh. It's on the nose, but I like stuff like that.
I never noticed it, so it's gonna be 2 on the nose because I didn't pick that up on that at all.
I think the reasons she doesn't do it is because of Mike's implication. Because she really likes seeing Jimmy happy. And she doesn't necessarily want to take that away. And I think she thinks that the scam will stop. And I think that's the only selfish reason in these reasonings that we're thinking about.
Yeah. Exactly. No, exactly. That's exactly what actually, that's why I think she does it more than anything else. Is she doesn't want she doesn't. Yeah, I think she.
I don't think it's the only factor. I think it's
No,
probably the biggest one,
I think she's also like very protective of Jimmy, but like she wants to sort of like I think like she doesn't want to see him like how he was in the beginning of the season, like resulting from Bagman. Like he's sort of at this point like starting to sort of become his old self. But also it's definitely just like it's really fucked up that she's like it's like sort of selfish for her to be like, well, because it's like really like her not saying that it puts Howard's life in the danger. Like it really jeopardizes everything. Because like at this moment they could have actually been preparing for Lalo and being aware of that, but instead just brushing it off the shoulder and then doing all this shit to then deal with that choice.
I think she feels safer because she knows Mike's guys are watching.
Do you think true, but do you also think that might? Do you think that's going to come back? I think that's going to really be a big point. And Jimmy and Kim's
of her not telling.
Yeah, telling him.
I do. Yes, I very much do. Because now they both know he's alive. Jimmy had the reaction of how. Kim had a very different reaction, or not a very different reaction, but a different reaction because she knew this was a possibility. Jimmy had
right. She seemed very prepared for it, with like just immediately her first thoughts being, "Howard, you need to leave."
Yeah,
like
she was. But it must. It's hard for me to put my head into Jimmy's. Well, I mean, I guess it isn't. It must be extremely shocking to see Lalo there, especially after hearing from two people, from Mike that he was going to die that night, and also from like the official report, like he's dead. Like he's for sure dead. It's such a relief, and he's still, even after he thinks he's for sure dead, like he still keeps him up at night. It's like the nuns back in Cicero would hate if I said it, but thank God he's dead.
Yeah,
because he obviously implies to Kim that like it makes him stay up at night. Like it's really freaked him out. So I don't know what's like mental wise what this is gonna do to him.
Oh man. Yeah. All right. Let's get into some stuff now.
I don't think that if this kind of ties into the future, but
okay.
I don't think he'll ever believe that Lalo's really dead after this, even if he's told again. Because I think this is like the ghost in the back of his mind that he thinks.
I mean, he does bring him up in Breaking Bad, so it seems to still be haunting him.
But like you've already been told that someone's died, and they come back. Presumably, when Lalo dies and he's told again, how likely is he to believe that for a second time? I don't think he'd ever believe it unless he actually saw Lalo die, which I don't imagine happening because of what he says in Breaking Bad.
I guess we'll have to see. Yeah. All right. A couple things I want to talk about really quick. I got a couple of notes here. I does most of the plot lines, but I got a couple of things to run down. I feel like we're definitely going to obviously do discussion on part 2 or the other episodes, and then we'll kind of talk about the show a little bit more. So I don't really want to like go over every single thing here because we're going to touch up a lot on it again. So I just want to keep it like really focused on like the stuff that ended for sure. I'm curious. Obviously, nothing is isolated; they all connect to each other. But I'm curious. What are your thoughts on the opening scene of the season, like the flash forward? Yeah, I they kind of like really played me when they started in black and white and then slowly transitioned to color. I'm like, oh, it just not a Gene scene. All right, let's see what happens here. But I loved it. I thought it was excellent.
I think it was one of my favorite scenes of the show.
Yeah, I thought it was spectacular.
Especially the ending of that cold open. I thought they really got me emotionally. Because it implies so much without really telling you anything.
It makes you like speculate on
pain moment.
The multiple different ways that something can go down, but no matter which way it goes down, it's going to be tragic. Like if it's like you don't know necessarily which angle or which level of tragedy, but you understand like it's not going to be a fun time.
There's a lot of really.
There's obviously a lot of stuff they call back to like they show the golden. There's a lot of toilet talk this season. They show the golden toilet, and then you see the toilet later on in the. I know it's not the same toilet, but there's the toilet connection there. We see a couple of stuff I think that show up in this season. But what fascinated me when seeing that bottle cap is when I saw it, I initially thought immediately like, all right, well, like I think it like maybe wants you to think like Kim is directly involved, but I think it's just showing the influence, just showing like for me, it's like, this is my speculation so far. We'll obviously learn more, but for me, that was showing like the everlasting thumbprint that Kim has on Jimmy, but also Saul, like how she like has this thumbprint still on his life, his Saul persona. And then we see that in this episode too, like her like talking about, oh, what would Saul do? What would she do? So I think that is what it meant to me. But I also then saw that, and later in the season, when he's about to buy the bottle, that was a moment where I'm like, oh shit, wait a minute, maybe like that cap isn't from, but the one that Kim kept, but from this bottle. I know it could still have some. I don't think that would change the symbolism like that much, but it would still. But then he obviously doesn't buy it. But I did think for a second, I was like, is that? Yeah. When I saw that scene, I'm like, wait a minute. But yeah,
there's been 2 bottles that we've seen them have.
Yes.
One of them is from season 2, episode 1, when they scam the guy out of, and they get the bottle cap at the end. The second one is when he thinks he's settled Sandpiper. With the Irene Landry stuff, and they use that bottle later, when they're sitting on the couch in silence after Chuck's death.
Yeah.
And I think it could be either one of those. I don't think it really matters.
No,
like,
I don't either.
It materially means the same thing, though. I like to imagine it's the first one because they did very, very much so show Kim keep that at the beginning of season 2. So I'd like to think it's that one, but I mean,
I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. Again, I feel like we'll talk about that more when we get to this. A lot of stuff we're talking about now, we're probably not all of it, but a lot of it go over again in our another discussion, in the future discussion, because it'll have more meaning. We'll have more closure. We'll have more to really say on it because it's a lot of speculation. But I love the opening sequence. What was your thought? Were you like kind of surprised it didn't kick off with a Gene sequence, or were you like like, what were your expectations? Did you expect to see Gene at all in the first 7 episodes? Like, were you surprised not to see it at all?
I wasn't. Once he wasn't in the first episode, I was not expecting him to be in anything other than the ending. Is my thought process. I don't think he's going to be in the first episode of the next half because that's not really how they planned it.
I don't think so.
Apparently, they haven't changed anything based on the split. This is not the same way Breaking Bad's last season was split. Breaking Bad's last season was split. They wrote and filmed the first 8, and then they wrote and filmed the second 8, and there was a year gap.
That definitely shows. But also, I still think like they chose a perfect spot to leave it off on.
Yeah, but people aren't going to look at this season and say 6A, 6B. They're just going to call it season 6. While people looking at Breaking Bad say 6A for 5A, 5.
Because the tones are so drastically different. Yeah, it's true.
It's the opening scene sets the tone for this whole season. It sets up the big question: where is Kim? Right now, this in terms of like where we go from here, we're not cutting between that many storylines anymore. They've really eliminated that. Like, we're not going to cut back to Nacho stuff. We're not going to cut back to Howard, which is what they were doing for the first half of the season, or like season 5 really is all those characters. Now the only storylines is going to be Lalo, Jimmy, and Kim as one, and the other one is Gus and Mike. It's just going to cut between those. So they're going to get a lot done, I think. Maybe. Yeah,
I think now more the split and the plots is less to do with all these characters, but more of what time period we're talking about. Are we talking about the Better Call Saul time period? Are we talking about the Breaking Bad time period? Because I'm sure we're going to see that. I'm sure we're going to see some stuff of that. I mean, we know of 2 characters showing up, which I don't think really. We could talk about, but I'm not. I didn't put it in my notes. I don't think it's really. We'd rather just talk about it when it happens. But
I've been avoiding spoilers, so I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. But I'm gonna ignore it. How about that?
Okay.
Anyway,
it has nothing to do with it. Don't worry about it.
So my prediction would be that they go maybe up to 2005. But right now we're in June 24th, 2004 is the day that we've ended this. So
Yep.
which we know based on the check. Yeah. But the I would not be surprised if it didn't go much farther past this, and then it cuts to Gene, and then that's it. There's probably gonna be some Breaking Bad stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was just if it doesn't stay too much. I think based on the pace they're going, I think they're just gonna leave open a lot that happens in between Better Call Saul.
I'm curious how they're gonna end the Gene stuff. What do you expect is going to happen?
I mean, that's definitely something that they have to address. Like the stuff in between Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, like timeline wise, that's definitely fine to leave ambiguous with certain things. But like the Gene,
you assume what happened, yeah.
The Gene,
of course, yeah.
All right.
The last Gene stuff left on a cliffhanger. The question is there going to be a full episode of Gene or possibly multiple full episodes?
But like I can't see it happening. Like I want it to be the case, but like at the same time I don't see it happening.
There's only 6 episodes left.
Yeah, like I feel like it would make sense, but like that's a lot. And like they're not I don't know if they're gonna do like half an episode, but that feels weird too, to have just like a cutoff halfway through the episode where it's just like half Gene, half this.
The end of the entire thing. I can't imagine they're gonna do it just half an episode.
Exactly.
I genuinely believe the show's ending with Gene.
Yes. The last shot is going to be a Gene shot.
That's what I think.
Yes.
So if that's the case, I could see a series of events occurring, which I don't know how they're going to occur, but in a way in which the last episode, I think like the actual events, sort of like how with Breaking Bad, like the climax of the show has already ended. Like everything that built up has ended. And the last episode is sort of like an epilogue in which I don't think it'll be entirely Gene. I think it will be like something where like maybe the cold open is Gene and then it kind of splits to something else, maybe going on with Jimmy and Saul, like sort of like mirroring each other. Like maybe like, you know, sort of like foiling each other in a way in which like it like both to complete what the show is doing, which is both showing how Jimmy became Saul and showing how Saul's stories ends. Like I think they will do both at the same time.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a possibility that they could structure an episode in the form of like A plot, B plot, where A plot is
that's what I meant,
and like B plot is like
that's what I meant. Yeah, that's what that's what I meant. I meant like the A plot would be like Gene maybe, or maybe that'd be the B or the A, and I feel like there'd be something going on at the same time. Like maybe I don't know. Maybe Kim's out of the picture at this point. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah. But I have a feeling that like it's going to be like the climactic events happened and it's like an epilogue where it's just bouncing back between both of them in a way that makes sense. I don't know how that would happen, but like because we don't really know what Gene's planning.
Right.
The only thing we know, the only official hint we have at all for Gene is the poster for this season, and that's it.
Yes, it is of Gene.
It's either him taking off a red jacket or putting on. I think it's putting on.
Could be both.
It could be both. That's kind of why I love the poster.
I think it is both personally.
Because he's becoming Gene after Breaking Bad into Gene, and then maybe he's going back. Who knows?
So what do you think?
He's going to use some of that.
So I mean, he's the last line we got with Gene in season 5, right? Is he's like, "I'll do it myself." Is that what he says, or what does he say exactly?
I'll take care of it myself. I think is the exact line. Let me check though. I'm gonna fix it myself.
I'm gonna fix it myself. Huh? I don't know. Yeah, it's so. I almost have no predictions for the Gene stuff because I really have no idea, like, where they're going with it.
Yeah, I have hopes. I hope the worst happens to him personally. Why? Because I think at that point he's done so many awful, terrible things. I kind of hate Gene, to be honest.
You hate Gene, or you hate?
I do. I hate.
See,
Gene.
All right. Can I be honest with you? Here's what I feel. I love Jimmy. I hate Saul. That's where I'm at.
Yep.
I
Yep.
hate everything Saul represents. Gene sort of feels like he sort of feels like a, I don't want to say dead man walking, but like a ghost. Like, all
Feels
right,
like he's in purgatory.
I actually have a better thing. I think he's in hell. All right, it's time to do
Yep.
this. Connection time. I was going to talk about this because of themes and symbolism. Jimmy, and and what the fuck's his name? Walt. Why can't I think of his name? And I guess oh god, I guess Jesse too, but that kind of destroys my theory. Let's just avoid Jesse. I think Jimmy and Saul are both sent, when they're with the vacuum cleaner, are both sent from New Mexico, which is a very warm place, to two very like cold places, snowy places. And I think that like, I don't know, this is just my interpretation. Like, I know there's some like interpretations, I know at least in Dante's Inferno, like hell is like cold, like frozen. And like, I feel like it's like both of them are like sent to places that are very cold and like lonely. Like, that's sort of what the cold and snow sort of always symbolizes to me, is like isolation and loneliness. And I feel like that's what Gene is. Like, they're both sent, Gene and Walt, both kind of sent to like this hell, only because of the consequences of, you know, their own choices.
Yeah.
But I feel like when Walt is sent there, I sort of felt less sympathetic. Gene, it's weird. I don't know what it is, but like, I feel very bad for Gene. Like, I feel like Gene is the like, I know Jimmy and Saul, I know he made these choices. I know he made the bed that, you know, he's going to lie in. But Gene just, it's almost like, I don't know, like the Gene scene's just, it has this very, it's like just so sad and pathetic to me. And it's just like a man who can't have an identity. He can't have this, like, he can't be flashy. He can't be, he's like the opposite of Saul. He can't be like this flashy, like colorful man. He has to be very gray. Obviously he's in black and white, very gray, very like blending in with the shadows. Very, and it's like, it's almost like, it's just like he's getting everything he doesn't want in life.
It's the perfect hell designed specifically for this character.
Mm-hmm.
It is, he cannot speak. Like, he has such little dialogue. It's like the perfect torture. Yeah. And all he has is these tapes of his previous life. And watching them over and over and wearing them out as the intro degrades.
Yeah, my analogy doesn't really work for Jesse, because when he gets into Alaska, it's kind of like the opposite for him. It's like a fresh start.
Yes,
like,
it's finally, yeah.
It's kind of like almost like heavenly, but
What
Yes.
he wants, though.
yeah. So I guess my snow theory and cold, but they're both portrayed different. Alaska's like, when he gets sent there, it's like very bright and like, I don't know, like lively. It feels
It's beautiful. It's filmed differently.
Yeah.
Very, very pretty.
Yeah, this just feels very dark.
And Walt's place was the opposite of, and he didn't actually end up there, but yeah,
yeah, true, he escaped it, but well, I think that's the difference. Is, well, maybe Jimmy's doing the same thing. I don't know, but I think also, like, you know, Walt has that like pride factor that Gene doesn't. Like he sort of like couldn't just sit there and, you know, slowly rest. Like, he had to make sure his family got the money. He had to make sure, like, you know, like all this stuff happened. He needed to do all, you know, whatever. He has his whole plan. Yeah. And maybe it's something that Jimmy, but maybe not pride, but I'm not sure what. I don't know.
I think that Gene is the result of a very scared man hiding out and worried about every creak of a door or any footstep. And I think that at the end, the last time we saw Gene, I think he's deciding not to be scared anymore.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But what that means, I have no idea. Some people have said that he sees someone in the mall and that's why he left the phone. I don't buy that. I think he makes an internal decision.
Yeah.
In the script, it's not canon because it's just in the script. It's just description that people base stuff on, like performances and stuff. It says that he's like, no, damn it, I'm Saul Goodman. You know, I've taken on bigger, blah, blah, blah. But it could be that. Absolutely. But I think, I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good way of saying it. Yeah. I don't know. I don't
That's
know.
how I've been this whole time. I'm just like, I don't fucking know.
I trust the showrunners to do something interesting with it. How about
Yes.
Yeah,
I have far more trust in this show than I have in any show I've ever watched.
Yeah, which it's true, which is why I like it so much. It's true. Like, there's very rarely in my like, I'm not to say the show is, I don't think has never taken any missteps, but like it's like yeah, I do have so much faith where I'm not
We have
like
10 seasons of pretty good
Yes.
control group.
pretty good is saying it. Is saying it.
Very, very, yes.
I would say it much. I'd heap its
Very
praises.
reserved.
Of course, very reserved way. All right, let's get into the themes and symbolism. This is the stuff that we just bring up. It's fun. We mentioned. I mentioned actually a lot of it throughout the discussion.
I have one big one, and that's about it.
Okay, I have like two small ones.
Yeah, this is all you guys. I'm not. I am not a film man.
Absolutely.
Well, you can chime in. You don't have to come up with them. You can just chime in on ours.
Yeah.
I have one. Do you want me to? I have two small ones. And you have a big one, so maybe I can do one of mine, and then we can do your big one. All right, so the one I have is pretty interesting. I like it a lot. So it involves Francesca, which is kind of weird, I know. But I noticed something. So the scene, it was very scene I liked a lot. It's where they're setting up the Howard stuff, where they're trying to call in they're trying to get the number to call in to listen to the stuff, and I love when Saul says, "Can you meet me in the library?" and then go out next to the trash can.
Library.
But I like that. I think that the dumpster and the trash can represents something, and I'm not exactly sure what, because we see in Better Call Saul in the flash forward scene with Francesca, she's carrying those shredded papers, like those trash bags, and the last scene we see her is her leaving with those trash bags, and then we now see her in front of this dumpster. Like, it's almost like she in the season, like the way she's decorating the office and the way she is almost trying to like sort of like wipe the trash away, but like she can't. Like it always comes back. It's like she's like trying to like cover up the filth, but eventually it seems like she gives up and just lets the filth take over. It's a cool contrast seeing the office from how it starts off to how it eventually looks like.
Absolutely. I very much agree with you. That's a lot of stuff sprang to mind. First of all, the office that she designed versus the one in Breaking Bad. She's behind glass in Breaking Bad.
Yes.
And she is open in this one. Behind the alley. That alley was seen when they were loading up Walt's money in barrels into his van. He was go out and bury it. That was the only time we've seen behind his office. It's the same place. Although I don't think it's actually, it's a different location.
Yeah.
Also, there's a shot that zooms in or is very, very close to an electrical output meter thing, the one that Chuck had to smash.
Yes.
Which I thought was pretty. I love that shot. It's very quick, but I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then I love that we can just see which direction Francesca's going with. Like, why in the world does he stay with Saul? And that's another discussion. Saul's whole treatment of Francesca. I don't know what they're going to do with that. But,
right.
But I think the mask becomes the man. That sort of thing is probably where they're going with it.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, she seems her transformation seems kicking a little bit here. Where like where she asks, she's like, "Can you clean up this?" Like when the man's like peeing everywhere, "Can you clean this up?" And she's cleaning it yourself. Like you kind of see like that sort of coming out of her.
Yeah. The question is, why does she stay? I think it's money. I think she gets paid probably a lot more than anyone else.
And she's probably gonna get paid way more in the future too, because like Saul only makes more money. So
I love that Saul's using the Coco Bolo desk that he got with Davis and Maine.
I think that's why everyone sticks with Saul too. Not to interrupt your point. I'll go back.
No,
even like the filmmakers, I'm sure that's why they stick around, is the money from it.
Oh, yeah.
So like, I think like Jimmy, like once Kim is out of the picture, or at least as we assume, probably rightfully so, it seems like the only way he can get people to stick around is money, which is kind of sad.
Yes, that is. Yeah, that's a big thing. I think they're touching on. Yeah, I love that we can see the drawer of cell phones starting to accumulate, which has been established since CC Mobile. I love that it's the Coca-Cola desk. I mean, he has a different desk, obviously, later. But he has the Coca-Cola desk that he got from Davis and Maine, which we also see in his mansion when everything's being taken apart.
Yep.
I like that. I like that the office is different. Oh, I had a note really fast. The printer in that office, I remember seeing it and going, "That's way too new for 2004." And I was right; it was made in like 2013.
Oh my god.
It
Oh,
like
really?
nothing usually sticks out to me like that, but that one in particular was like,
Yeah, they've usually done a really good job about that with like having like the older money, because that was before like the big redesigns that they've done. Like I think like 2007 was the first big one, and like all the cars looking correct for the era. They've done a really good job of that kind of stuff. So
which is why those things stick out. It doesn't really
Right.
bother me that much. For
Yeah.
example, one that I didn't mind was Howard's espresso maker. It's like way too new apparently, but
Oh, really?
eh, again,
It's rich, so we'll let it pass.
Yeah, I
I will
didn't know that.
accuracy any day.
Yeah, that stuff.
But,
That stuff doesn't really matter to me too much, unless it's like very distracting and like, or to the point where it affects the story in a negative way. But I don't know.
Also, Francesca's wearing the same like shirt in that scene when she's calling that she wears when Walt smashes open the door. We haven't seen that many people share like wearing the same outfits they did in Breaking Bad. So I mean, but people keep the same shirts for a long time, so it made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, this is an observation I noticed with her in trash. She seems to always be like connected to the trash, taking out the trash and dealing with the trash.
Which kind of leads into that it's the season 4 episode 5 in Better Call Saul, that flash forward to the office. There's very particular things he says which need to be answered at some point.
Yeah, with the lawyer, right?
Yeah, he said he handed a card and said, "Tell him Jimmy sent you." I always assumed that was Howard. Always.
Tell them
Because
Jimmy sent you. Yeah.
When she's talking about when the police talk to
Who
you,
could that be?
she says when the police talk to you, tell them Jimmy sent you, something like that.
Tell them
So I'm
Jimmy sent you.
tell them Jimmy. It has to be someone we've already seen interacting with Jimmy, or maybe it's Bill Oakley, the bald guy who
You don't.
tells Jimmy. It could be that. It could be. I don't think it'd be Kim.
I don't
because
think
she
it'd be
knows
Kim. Yeah.
Francesca knows Kim, so
Yeah,
why would she have to say
exactly.
tell him Jimmy sent you?
Yeah, it had to be someone. Not
then-
Mike.
Yeah. No, Mike's dead.
Oh, obviously, duh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Duh.
But I think it's someone in the lawyer. I have no
before
idea.
I just realized I forgot that Mike dies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's and then the other thing mentioned, which I'm more curious about, is the phone call. Where are you going to be at November 12th at 3 p.m.? And she says, "I'll be there, but if it doesn't ring, I'm gone." November 12th is his birthday. Is Jimmy Miguel's birthday. And he knows there's a phone call coming on that day. Does he get a phone call every year from someone? And is it Kim? That's what people have always wondered.
Ooh.
And why would that be the case?
Maybe because
she's in prison.
Get to it to predictions. Yeah, prison or we'll get to it.
That whole
What's your
thing got me to it.
All right, what's your symbolism? What do you got?
I'm going to go as fast as I can because there's a lot to it.
All right,
it's the painting that's above the couch. It's
which painting? Is this
it's the painting that they have all the sticky notes on the back of.
Oh,
it's
yes.
always sat above their couch in the whole series, above Kim's couch in front of the TV in their living room next to the kitchen. It has always been there. It's always where they've cuddled and watched movies, where they've initiated sex, where they've just hung out and been themselves. Kim's apartment is kind of a safe place where they can just be themselves, right? They put on faces when they're outside of that. But when they're inside, that's where they've always hung out. It's never meant anything. The painting's always just been there, but they've used this painting to retroactively make it mean so much more. They've started hiding their plans for Howard behind it, right? Taken it off the wall, put sticky notes behind there. When Howard gets shot, his blood splatters all over that painting. There's a particular shot when he's falling that they show that very clearly. His blood splatters on the painting. It taints the painting.
Yeah.
It's different. And that painting is in the mansion in the season 6 opener.
I do remember a painting, yeah.
It's in a really long shot where they're going down the stairs. It's the same painting. Why would they keep that painting that Howard's blood has been on? Right? Why would he keep that? I think
what is the painting
Howard's
of?
death,
I missed it.
It's just a landscape.
Well,
I can send it to you if you want.
Okay. It's nothing crazy.
It's just a desert landscape. It's never meant anything until now. They've made it retroactively mean a lot of things, which I think is brilliant. Because there's not so much of the show left that you can introduce new symbolism. You have to
Right.
take old stuff and apply it to that.
Yeah,
That
build on
painting
top
has
of
been
it.
there
Yeah.
every time they've cuddled on that couch and watched TV and all that stuff. It's always been there. It was there when Howard said that Chuck's suicide.
Yeah.
It's just always been there, and they've started using it to put post-it notes in the back. And it has Howard's blood is on their hands. It's on their plans where they've been putting their stuff. They'll have to clean that off at some point. I'm assuming that's where the next episode picks up.
I think it's just it could be another reminder of his old life, maybe.
Yeah,
but he carries on with him.
Yeah, my prediction based on this is that possibly this is what taints the relationship, why they are not together, is Howard's death. It takes the allure out of everything they're doing. They've never wanted this. They only wanted to bruise him. This is the consequences. I think it makes them sick to their stomachs, and I don't think they can continue together. I think this is what swings it open.
I agree.
Possibly.
I 100% agree.
Just based on the painting.
But I also think it's possible, and we'll get to this when we get to the predictions, but we're almost done. That's all we have left after this. I'm thinking that will have a lot to do with our predictions. Is I think we'll talk a lot about that. What exactly is going to happen with their relationship, and how, I think we can all pretty much surmise that it's going to collapse. Just it's more of how it collapses. It's sort of like with Nacho. It's like we kind of knew Nacho was going to die. It's just how he's going to die. Yeah. Although there were also, I did have a little hope that maybe Nacho would. I mean, I know after season 5 it's hard to do, but I did early on have a little hope that Nacho would make it out, sort of be like the happiness. Like the little bright spot of the story, but I guess not. I guess we can't have that. I like it better that we don't, but yeah,
Will the only happy ending of the series be Jesse? We shall see.
Yeah. Or yeah. I guess probably. I mean, it makes sense to be him. I guess.
I think Gene might have a happy ending.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible.
I think Kim might have a happy ending.
I think Kim could have a happy ending that's like happy for her, but not happy for Jimmy, or like happy, happy, but not for like the audience perspective. Like it's like a little like, oh shit.
Yeah. Going into the season, I made predictions about who was going to live, who was going to die. I predicted that both Nacho and Howard were going to live through the season. That was wrong.
Okay.
But it's funny that like before Howard, like the two main characters that have died in this series have both died by suicide for very different reasons.
Yeah.
And then people were predicting Howard was going to commit suicide.
Well, yeah.
When he was talking to him in the apartment and stuff, but he showed more resilience than ever.
Right.
And they might have to stage it as a suicide.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's where
the opposite way.
That's where I expect them to go with that.
His car's there. How in the world?
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. I wanted to say what I find fascinating is Kim and Lalo are like the only two major characters around that aren't explicitly in Breaking Bad, and every other character, including Chuck and Nacho and Howard, that were not in Breaking Bad, died.
Yes.
So it's like, are there going to be any characters that survive, or is just their fate going to be related to Jimmy, in which that, like, you know, I mean, outside of a couple characters, like every character he's around in Breaking Bad ends up dying. Mm-hmm. So it's like he's just that cockroach. Like he's just like everyone dies around him, but he just makes it out. I don't know. We'll see.
This last episode makes the line, "It wasn't me, it was Ignacio. He's the one." Did Lalo send you? No, Lalo. It makes it way more confusing than it ever has been.
Yes,
I have a theory about it. I have a theory.
He's blaming something on a dead man. You know?
Yeah, but I think I have a theory. I'm gonna explain it. We'll get to it. We'll get to our predictions. Last thing I wanted to mention with like themes and symbolism is I think we kind of already talked about the glass with Gus and Nacho. I love the cold open to episode 3, but like the glass and like the shot and the storm coming, like the flower. But there's a lot of glass this season. It feels like in the first couple episodes, there's a lot of this glass like all over the place. Like there's glass when that piece of glass, like we see Nacho shooting through like the glass of the car. Like,
There's glass shaking in the back of the truck when
Yep.
when he's driving away from the motel.
yeah. Yeah, what do you think that means? Do you have any idea? Because I don't. I'll be honest with you. I have no fucking
I
idea.
not thought about it until the second. So
Yeah, I thought about it heavily, but I mean, the glass like cuts Gus. I don't know. Just
He
grasping at
uses
straws.
yeah.
I put a question mark. My note says, "What's the glass mean?" That's my notes.
Yeah, I think that I mean, I the only symbolism I've attached to a glass is that it's Gus's carelessness that allows Nacho to do what he did. In more ways than just leaving the glass.
Fair.
Right. If Gus played things differently, Nacho could be very dead. So, it's kind of that way with the in a mini version of that is knocking the glass over, and that allows Nacho to take things into his own hands just a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's a much better way than I can paint it because I have no idea.
Yeah,
oh my goodness.
I don't know.
All right,
I have dumb brain. It's also
fair.
been a very long week for me, so it's extra dumb this week.
Yeah.
It's cool. This will be our chill discussion. We're gonna go hog wild.
After the end of the series, we will go fucking ham.
Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. But all right. So what are your all right? Can we make predictions or do you know stuff?
I don't know anything.
Okay.
I can tell you what I did know going into the season. Now I know nothing else besides this. Was that it was the scene where Jimmy was dressed as Howard and rushed to get Wendy. That was the scene I saw the filming of.
Right. Let's make predictions. Okay, so where to start? I had like a bunch I wanted to make.
I think 100% chance Lalo dies. I think that is my lock hammer prediction. Lalo is going to die.
I agree.
But Jimmy will not know. Obviously.
You don't think Jimmy's going to know?
He could know theoretically. Like,
I think he is going to know.
He could be like, he could think that like he would have sent somebody anyway, but I don't know.
Said, did Lalo send you no Lalo?
I have a theory. So before he asked about Lalo, he's like, no, it wasn't me. It was Ignacio. It was Ignacio. He was blaming a dead man. I don't know if Jimmy knows that Nacho was dead. He
definitely doesn't know at this point. Yeah.
That scapegoat, I think that's Mike. I think Mike is like, if anyone asks, or like, let's make like, you know how after the desert, like they made the story of like, here's what happened. It just feels like a very like Mike story. So I think Mike's going to be involved in covering up or help them with Howard's death, possibly.
Yeah, I mean, like that's how it was introduced in Breaking Bad. So,
I think that's going to be the same case. As I think Jimmy is going to know, and I think that lie feels like very much a script that Mike told him to say. I don't know.
That's a good one. I like that.
How could Mike, if Lalo dies, Mike has to know.
Yeah.
How would Mike know Lalo's dead and not Jimmy?
Well, do we know that Jimmy doesn't know he's dead?
That's my thing. I think that Jimmy has been told that Lalo's dead, but when he's out in the desert on his knees, he doubts it because he's been told before.
He's been told that he's dead, and
he walked in. So I think he has a safe room in his mansion. I think that might be because of, along with everything else, because he still really fears Lalo.
All right, a part of me. Okay, I guess he's going a different way. All right, you know what I could genuinely also see is what Jimmy. I don't know how he blamed Nacho for this. Maybe they somehow twist it because he might not know Nacho's dead. But I have a feeling that Jimmy's gonna turn in Lalo. I think that might happen.
I was about to say that.
I think they're setting that.
They've never mentioned the "do you want to be a friend of the cartel or a rat?" since that. I think Jimmy might be a rat.
I think, yeah.
Ooh.
I think that might be what he's referring to.
Yeah, because they set that plot line up too, where he has the conversation where with the other lawyer, where she's bringing up like, you know, like, oh, you could turn yourself in. Like, I think that opportunity, Kim set that up. I think that Jimmy could take that jump to get two birds with one stone, to both A, put away Lalo, and also end this with Kim, to stop Kim from, like, I don't know if he would throw Kim under the bus. I can't see that happening.
He blames Nacho. He says that Nacho's a rat. That's what he's saying then in Breaking Bad, if we go with that.
I think so. I think he could be
Which
saying
makes sense to me.
He's a rat. And I think maybe, like, could that result in something bad for Kim? Like, maybe, like, I don't know. A part of me thinks, you know, Kim, I mean, if Kim is alive, though, I think that she would have to disappear. But I think that I
don't want Kim to use the vacuum thing. I don't want them to use that again.
Yeah, I think that would be a little bit of a cop-out.
I desperately don't want that. I don't want Kim to use
I also don't, but I have a feeling they might.
Maybe.
I mean,
yeah.
Did they set it up as kind of like so?
Well,
I
she
don't know.
mentioned she saw the
when
book
they
and-
show when they showed the black book and like had the vacuum cleaner card. Like, did they show that as like specifically just a reference to him having it in the future, or was it set up as kind of like a Chekhov's gun thing? And like, if you introduce it, it's going to be used in this piece.
Well, we
of
know
media.
it's used. Yeah.
No. Like in this specific.
Yeah.
I've heard the writers talk about this.
Right.
They said they struggled to find a way that Jimmy could know about the vacuum cleaner repair guy and not Mike. Because if Mike knows about it, then Walt wouldn't be able to use that against Gus to disappear. So Jimmy has to know about it, but Mike cannot know about it. Right. So they did it through the vet. I think it could go either way. I would be okay with that was the last mention of the vacuum. Although
then how would he figure it out? Yeah. We need to see how he figures it out.
Probably when he buys the book from the vet, because the vet's looking to sell that book.
Yes. Yeah, but we know he buys it,
and then the vet explains it to him.
Yeah,
presumably.
So then maybe when he gets that explained, then I think it. I don't know. I don't know.
Think of anything satisfying.
So I mean, I think there's three possibilities for Kim. I didn't really mention it. I think she could live and go to prison. I could see that
for Howard.
Yeah, I could see her live and almost taking would end up symbolically taking the fall. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or she lives and disappears to the vacuum, which is the one I want the least, but I honestly could see that happening. Or obviously she dies. I mean, is it possible that she dies and then that's what forces Jimmy to turn in Lalo? Maybe I don't know.
I don't know. It's possible that Jimmy and Kim get through all this Lalo stuff, and they just don't feel like being together anymore.
I think that is going to happen, but there has to be. I can't see just like Kim just being like, all right, we're not together, but and walk out.
It could be over years, you know. Kim, of just slowly, we're not. This is not
Kim. We definitely need to know where Kim ends up.
Of course,
we definitely need to know. Do you think it's possible that if she is alive and all right, let's just say that she did disappear and they did that whole thing.
Sure.
Do you think it's possible that that's what Gene's going after maybe, and maybe Gene is going to get involved in that?
No, where she go? Well, I guess
I don't know. Maybe that's the phone call. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I mean, I don't think Kim is going to be involved in Breaking Bad. I just think her fingerprint's going to be there.
Yeah, but I don't like that theory people had of her being behind the scenes.
No, I definitely don't like that. Yeah. But I think it's still possible she's alive. She's just somewhere else. But I don't think she's around.
Here are the things that Saul Goodman has from Kim. The hexagonal table in his office is hers. The painting. There's a book called The Time Traveler that was in season 2 that was shown in episode 2 of this season that was shown in the mansion. The bottle cap, and
well, we don't know if that's the same bottle cap anymore because he got the other.
He didn't get that.
Did he not?
He did not buy it.
He put it down before he noticed the judge, and he put it down and ran to his car. Yeah, we actually mentioned it earlier. We brought that up.
I think the implication is that it's the same one all the way back from season 2. It's possible it's not. But I mean, that's obviously very much the implication. It'd be a little cheap if he just bought that last week and then, there it is.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's just more to show that the fingerprint that Kim still has all this time later. There's also, I don't think the underwear they showed was Kim's underwear, but I don't know. Maybe you never know.
No, they have put such an emphasis on brushing your teeth together in this show as a way of cleansing after they've
Yep.
done, like they threw the bottles
Yep.
off the thing, they spit into the sink. There's only one toothbrush and 2 sinks in that mansion. There's only one toothbrush in the toothbrush holder. So presumably, oh, and by the way, behind the scenes knowledge, the house that they checked out beginning of season 5, the open house, this mansion was originally supposed to be in that house, but it didn't work for logistical reasons. They wanted it bigger.
No.
But you can see thematically kind of what they were going for.
I like how the mansion, like on the inside looks elaborate, but on the outside it feels, I don't know what the word is. Like it has like these pillars, but like it doesn't feel like the outside, like it looks kind of cheap. Do you know what I mean by that? Like I mean, it's like a nice house. Don't get me wrong, but like
it's like the inverse of gilded.
Like the inside, like I think like expected me to make the outside look different, but it feels like the outside is like, you know, sort of disguised to like hide the inside. Because like if it was like, you know what I'm saying by this? I don't know how to explain it. Like,
yeah, I think it could also be that the house didn't initially look like that when it was bought, and that it's really been fancied up on the inside.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
And because I think he's trying to fill a hole with material possessions, you know, that sort of thing. Like there's some need to keep all this stuff. It's like he's basically a hoarder at this point. He has stuff all the way back from 2003 that he's keeping it. He still has several of the boxes of shoes that he bought for Irene Landry when he was buying all the sizes. He still has the balls from CC Mobile. Like, why would you need that?
I think
he's not giving stuff away. He's keeping as much as possible.
And that's Jimmy, man. He doesn't deal with his trauma. He doesn't throw out the trash. He doesn't clean up. Like he holds on to all this and he lets it affect him and he lets it shape who he is. Like it feels like that's how I read it. Like I read it like he all this stuff that happens, he doesn't work on it. He doesn't like, you know, like sort out like what to keep, what to get rid of. Like he holds on to these things to like I guess like he's sort of keeping himself there. Like he lets like, I don't know, he doesn't like he doesn't throw shit out. Like I don't mean like literally, like, but he doesn't like do the work of like cleaning. Like he instead sort of holds on to it all. I think, I don't know. That's how I read it.
Yeah, I think he's trying to compensate for something in terms of like, I think he feels a little empty, and that's why I think Kim's not there in the mansion for sure. But why would he have some of her stuff?
Because I just think he holds on to it. Like I think he can't let go.
Is it possible she initially lived in that house for a bit?
Possibly. How I see the trajectory of his character going is kind of like similar to what would happen with Chuck. Like when Chuck died, he didn't do the work. He didn't heal. He didn't properly grieve. He just suppressed, and moved on, and it haunted him. I think the same thing's going to happen with Howard. I don't think he's going to accept it and move on. And however Kim exits his life, I think it's the exact same thing. I think he's not going to, and that is how we see him in Breaking Bad. Like he's not someone who is processed and healed. And I think maybe
he's trying to become this other person. Like he's fully become Saul.
And I
at that
think
point.
the only potential he has to do that is with the Gene story right now. Where he says, I'll do it myself. Maybe that's the only chance he has to actually do the right thing and sort of like make up for.
Maybe he turns himself in as Gene. Who knows?
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think so.
Speculated on that. I don't see that at all. He went through all this trouble to avoid authorities.
He's well, I don't even know what his plan is. Is he going after the taxi guy? Like, I don't really.
I mean, presumably he's doing something with the taxi guy.
Yeah.
That's the only person who's recognized him, except taxi guy and his friend. We don't even know what his deal is. My prediction: he's just a weird guy. That's genuinely my prediction. I don't think he's an undercover cop. I don't think he's blackmailing him.
No,
I think genuinely
I do
he
too.
just got really excited. He's just weird.
He
just acts weird.
He's just a weird guy.
Yeah. This probably doesn't mean anything, but Jimmy McGill has never worn tie bars. Even as Saul Goodman in Better Call Saul, he's never worn a tie bar. In Breaking Bad, almost everything he wears has a tie bar. Howard always wears a tie bar. Who knows?
Yeah.
I have no idea. But I just saw that mentioned. I went, oh, that's actually true. That's weird.
Yeah. I feel like there was some other predictions I had, but what was it that we mentioned earlier? Something about, well, we kind of only briefly talked about Lalo, but we think, all right, let's kind of, we're kind of like pretending like the way end. Let's predict what's gonna happen like immediately. So they're obviously gonna have to, deal with the Howard stuff, but before that, what do you think Lalo's plan is?
Yeah, like what does Lalo want to talk about?
He's going to use their apartment as a safe house because they don't know he's there.
You think so?
Even if Mike's guys go back on Jimmy and Kim, they don't know Lalo has been there in the meantime, so he might just stay there. But actually, as I'm saying that would make sense because he has to go to bed. What's preventing them from just like, doing stuff when he's asleep? So I have no idea how he's going to use Jimmy and Kim. He's obviously going to use them in some way to get at Gus, but no idea.
Yeah, and also, I mean, do you think like they open the possibility, like everyone's now aware of like Lalo is this drug lord and Jimmy was working with him and they all kind of shunned him in like the courthouse. There seems a setup like, I don't think Lalo's gonna get like caught again, but like there's that threat of him getting caught. Like he's back here, he's back where there's like that threat. So I'm curious how they're gonna play with that.
I think Jimmy's gonna tell Lalo what happened in the desert.
How would that affect things, though? I mean, like, what would that change for Lalo?
He's not going to change anything for Lalo. I think he's just going to say it.
Yeah.
Because that's what he thinks Lalo. That's what he wanted last time.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was because that was what he went to his apartment.
I don't think Lalo cares, but I do think that he's going to tell him.
I honestly think...
I don't think he's going to keep the secret anymore from Mike. That's what I think.
Yeah.
Mike's not out there with a sniper. It is no holds barred.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see where the Lalo stuff goes. I mean, they obviously set up some stuff for like they definitely set up the stuff going on in the laundromat, like the gun that Gus like hid. Like, there's no way that's not coming back.
I don't think that it's going to be used the way Gus thinks it's going to be used, though. I don't think, because it seems way too predictable for Lalo to go down there. I mean, it seems what Gus was trying to see if he could get there to that gun in the dark. That's what he was doing.
Yes.
Right. He was counting on his paces. He was seeing if, when he turns out the lights, if he can still get to that gun just by feeling, and he knows exactly where it is. But I don't think, I think that is such a far-fetched, I think Gus even knows this, that like, he's just doing another preparation. I don't think that's his main plan at all.
Yeah.
It's just another thing.
It's a way of coping almost.
Yeah.
He really doesn't like wearing that gun on his ankle. That's the that's the vibe I got. He really doesn't like wearing a bulletproof vest and wearing a gun on his ankle and doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
I think
it's not him.
He doesn't. Yeah, exactly. I mean, he is precautious, but I think it's a bridge too far. It doesn't. He realizes he's being like really paranoid, and it needs to.
No, I agree. Oh man, what else? Final predictions we can make.
Maybe
it's hard.
They stage Howard's thing as a suicide, possibly.
I think definitely
because of the way it was shot.
Oh,
but I don't think Cliff Main might suspect that it's not a suicide.
That and
they put a lot of emphasis on Cliff Main.
There's no shot that the line where he says to his wife that if something happens, it's because of Jimmy, or like if I'm working on it with Jimmy. Mm-hmm. There's no way that doesn't come back.
Also, he says a line, and I saw this embroidered on some crew shirts and behind-the-scenes photos. I will put an end to this, whatever it takes, which is what Howard says to his wife. When he's talking about this, he's talking about what Jimmy and Kim are doing.
Yeah.
It's possible that still applies, that Howard's death puts an end to that, whatever it takes. Like, puts an end to them scamming.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Possibly you could read it that way. So he didn't think about it in that term at all. That it might come to pass.
I think it depends on how they're going to cover it up. I think a suicide's definitely how they're going to do it, but like I don't see like Kim and Jimmy being able to do that. That seems something that like Mike would normally do, but like obviously how can Mike get involved if Howard's there? I mean,
Lalo.
Yeah. Why would Lalo do that for them? I mean, the reason mainly Lalo show me serious, right? Does he care about the aftermath? Does he just need information from them? Does he need them to do something? If he needs them to do something, then they need to take care of Howard.
I think
Like, if
that
he needs
he
to do
definitely does. I think because
all this tape in a month's time.
as soon as he realized the phone was wiretapped, his whole plan that he had fell apart. So I think he immediately snapped to a new plan, and the seeing of the cockroach, I think, is him realizing, like, I have to use Jimmy and Kim. They're the only, because Kim said, I mean, like I mentioned earlier in the conversation, Kim said, like, you have no one to trust on, get your shit together, you have nobody, and it's only, again, been proven even further true since she said that. He's in the Nacho stuff. That was the next episode.
Real fast. I'll be right back.
So yeah, like everything that happened with Nacho, all of that, like it just seems to me that Lalo is very much relying on Jimmy and Kim. All right, I think we're gonna call it here. There's so much to talk about, even in these 7 episodes, and a lot of it I think we'll have more to say. Like I don't think we're really gonna. We won't go in depth on obviously all these episodes when we our second part, but like we won't even be mentioning Nacho for the most part. Like a lot of stuff we mentioned here we won't have to mention, but like most like the thematic elements and how things tie together, we can really focus more on our second conversation. So we'll definitely get back together and talk once the season ends.
Yep.
We'll kind of like, we obviously did a discussion with the first 5 seasons and this half. So it will kind of act as like a second half of the 6th season, but also a wrap up of the show. Not that we can do both at the same time. It's hard to even do one of those things, but it's sort of difficult. I feel like at the end of all these discussions, I'm always like, fuck, I have so much more to say, but
yeah, it happens.
It is what it is. But thanks for joining me,
not
guys.
like it's the last conversation.
No, yeah, we'll definitely do this. This would be fun. I can't wait.
Yeah.
For it to come back. I'm dying for it. And I can't wait to see what they do for the final 6 episodes. And that is that. Thank you so much for listening to our Better Call Saul Season 6 Part 1 discussion. There are more discussions to come about Better Call Saul, including a discussion about Season 6 Part 2. If you haven't already, make sure to check out our same discussions that we did with the same crew with Breaking Bad, the whole series, and Seasons 1 through 5 of Better Call Saul. Links to those are in the description, as well are links to where you can find Bob's content, as well as Glasses Freak. So make sure to check all of that out. Season 6 resumes in a couple of weeks, and I plan to have that Season 6 Part 2 discussion only a couple weeks after the series has concluded. So stay tuned for that. And as always, guys, thank you so much for listening.